You're listening to Bring Me the Axe. I'm Brian White. I'm one half of this morbid equation, and I'm joined by my co-host and brother Dave. Hey, Dave, how you doing over there?
Thank you for asking. I'm doing all right, but apropos of one of this month's themes, I would very much like to read to you a hand-drawn flyer that I found hanging around my neighbor. This was something I found just the other day, and it appears to have been written in very messy handwriting in blue crayon, is what it looks like. And it is in response to the flyers that are hanging all over the place for the holiday market that happened last weekend. And so here is the flyer. So it was positioned underneath the holiday market flyer. It was, big professionally illustrated, designed holiday market thing. And underneath it in big crazy crayon, with a arrow pointing up, it says, "Oh, honey!" Exclamation point. "It sounds like you have a war on Christmas. Jesus loves you anyway. Hope you find love and friendship and have no more hate in your heart."
In spite of the fact that I've shared 2 stories of war on Christmas shit, from the front lines of retail, even this year, even the right wing has had a hard time sort of mining any kind of joy or relevance from it that isn't just pure crazy or cringe.
Well, not this Looney Tune.
Oh no, this person particularly. This is right down there in the heart of woke in the People's Republic of Massachusetts.
Yeah, it's true. I love it. I choose to believe that it opens with an "Oh, honey." It's real sassy.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it's written in big crazy crayon, and it reminded me of all the clients I've had that would write these kind of bizarre missives that varying in length, but they were always really, really weird. Obviously, because they're mentally ill. But it got me thinking about the one guy who used to send children's birthday cards to the FBI, and inside they would just be this long, not quite a manifesto, but just a rant of sorts about the government.
Spiel.
Yeah, and we would try to to intervene if we saw them going to the mailbox, and be like, "Oh, don't worry, I'll take that one." Yeah, so it's the war on Christmas. It's real.
Oh man, you know what? I'm sorry to say you lost, folks. You lost. You lost. The secular humanists have won. Yeah, that's the thing is a proper manifesto. It's got to be in crayon. It has to be.
Well, and it's got to be at least 65 pages long. I thought, what better way? It felt very fortuitous that I would come upon this. What better way to close out this month than with this beautiful lunatic screen?
I love it. God bless them. You crazy people. Take your medicine. Just take your fucking medicine.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Yeah. So we practically grew up in neighborhood video stores, and the steady diet of utter garbage that those shops provided us with continues unabated to this day. There's no one else I enjoy chopping it up with more about trashy movies than Dave. Just before we get into it, here's a little housekeeping. If you want to keep up with us between episodes, you can also find us on Instagram at Bring Me the Axe Pod. Dave's over there at That Queerwolf. I encourage you to follow us. We're building a community here.
Please do.
Yep. I'm on TikTok also, if you do that sort of thing, just up rocking and booty popping.
Yeah, just out there, just doing the Sugarfoot and the Cincinnati Glide.
Are those real?
No, they are not.
Because Sugarfoot sounds like a great dance.
But I really wanted to be you'll never know.
I wish it was so that I could learn it and do it on TikTok. Look us up by name over there. And if you don't know, we have another show called 99-Cent Rental, where we cover all manner of video store madness on the weeks of Bring Me the Axes Off. Our latest episode covering Gremlins. It's Gremlins?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
But this script says The Christmas Martian. Is out now. We'll be back next week with a look at shit.
It's the anniversary.
Oh, that's right. Mommy Dearest. We're doing Mommy Dearest.
Mommy Dearest.
The origin for the name of the other show.
Yes, please, Barbara. Barbara, please.
Yeah. You can also contact us directly at bringmetheaxepod@gmail.com with any questions, comments, or suggestions. Do let us know if there's a movie that you love and would like to hear us give it the business. And if you would like to support us on Patreon, you can look us up over there at patreon.com/bringmetheaxepod. There's a couple of tiers you can join there. Subscribers at the $5 a month tier, the Greasy Jeans Gang, can look forward to our bi-weekly X-Files rewatch pod. Do you think I'm spooky? As well as our our monthly Millennium series, where you get another.
I called it the Millennium Edition, which is a reference to the Windows 2000. I went for the deep cut on that one.
I know, Jesus. Yeah, so like you get an extra episode from us a month covering stuff made recently, but also within like the last 20 years or so. There's also my DJ show, Radio Free Haddonfield. The weeks Do You Think I'm Spooky is off. You can expect a surprising mixtape of everything from rock to disco to punk over there. Once again, that's patreon.com/bringmetheaxepod. Yeah, just Bring Me the X Pod. There's also merch. Yep, get yourself a fine, t-shirt or a hoodie. We got that. Check the show notes for the link. We'll put it all up in there.
Gonna get some mouse pads, maybe. Gonna get
some
cheap ass coffee mugs.
Coffee mugs.
Yeah. No, I'm not. I specifically opted not to do that. I was like, I don't want to like just hawk cheap goods.
No, you know what I would like to do eventually? I think would be a lot of fun is like enamel pins, because I think our logo is like perfect for one of those.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah. Lastly, if you like what you hear, you can subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. We're on YouTube now. Search us by name and subscribe if you prefer to consume your podcast that way. And you'd be doing us a favor by leaving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And if you listen on YouTube, do us a favor. Give the episode a like and leave a comment. We like hearing from you guys.
Yeah, look, I'm going to get real right now. I see these 5-star ratings. They are in the double digit. I know for a fact that there are more than double-digit number people listening.
Right. This is true. You know, if you listen and you haven't done a review, listen, I assure you, it'll take you a second.
I am begging you.
I implore you. I beseech you.
I am finding things in my neighborhood and bringing them to this show.
You're like a crow or a raven. You're out there just like finding shiny things.
I'm like, here's a shiny bauble for you. Does that warrant 5 stars?
Yeah. This is the moment where we do our trailers, but we're not doing trailers because this is way too many goddamn movies to do trailers for tonight. This is our 2024 roundup for horror movies.
Now, I will remind you specifically that we last year, this was like a last minute thing where we're like, hey, we should talk about that. It'll be like a good 20 minutes. And it went on for 2 fucking hours. And then we recorded another episode right after that I think also went on for 2 hours. So this year I was like, you know what? Just one.
I was like, I wonder how many movies we talked about last year. We talked about 18 movies last year, or maybe 20, including a couple that you had seen that I hadn't. This year we're doing nearly double that.
Wow. Well, it feels like there were a shitload more new horror movies, or maybe just like more mainstream new horror movies than there were last year.
Yeah, but also we're covering like this list looking ahead, like some of this stuff. I mean, it's not exactly deep cuts, but some of them are foreign. Some of them are like really indie. So we've got like big theatrical releases on this list, but we've also got some stuff that like most of us only saw through streaming because like the only kind of actual like theatrical presentation that they had was at like film festivals and stuff. So it's just, it's a much bigger list. But that don't necessarily mean it was a very good year. No, then again, I think overall, oh my God, you guys are going to be so fucking mad at us at the end of this. But like overall, the bulk of my list lands kind of in the middle of the road where like at either end on the extremes, I've only got a few.
Yeah, same. Yeah. Most of it's in the middle.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of shit that was like right on the line for me where I was like, well, I enjoyed watching it. Did I think it was good though? No. Yeah. So I had to make that call a bunch of times.
Yeah. So what we've done is we've got this, like we did this last year too. We have a kind of like a 3-step scale where we've got the good, we've got the bad, and we've got the okay. And I think when we say like okay, or I think your list is meh. Yeah, it's very dismissive. I think that like most of these movies that land in the middle, they're fine. They're enjoyable. I may even watch them again. But did I think they were like the best of the year? No, but they were fine.
It's not quite breakfast. It's not quite lunch.
You get a slice of cantaloupe at
But
the
you
end.
get a slice
You
of
get a
cantaloupe.
good meal.
Yeah. That's that. It's the brunch of movies.
It really is. So, you wanna just get into it? Because man, we got a lot of fucking movies to talk about.
I had a couple higher level thoughts here, and I think because I was looking at the list and I was like, well, I do like that it's a more diverse list. Like there's more women or women presenting people who made movies. It's racially diverse. There's more countries. So I do kind of feel like, all right, even if the movies weren't super great, like they didn't knock it out of the park every time, at least it's not all like 38-year-old white dude.
True. Yeah.
So
This is like horror has been evolving like that for like a couple of decades, but this definitely with you on that. Feels like this is the year where it's finally starting to get into like floating gear, where it's just kind of like it's becoming more and more common that the field of creators and like just people involved in the creation of horror is a far more diverse bunch. And as a result, the output, the movies that we've gotten, they're more interesting. I don't necessarily want to say that they're better. They're more interesting. There's definitely a bunch of movies on my list where like I've got them in very vaulted positions because they're just like, I've never seen something like this, or it's just something that's very novel. It's very new. It's unique in ways that I wasn't expecting. So, yeah.
Well, then that I think leads to my second thought about this. And this is more of a acknowledgement than a thought, but this could all be because I watched a lot of these in sort of big chunks back to back at the end of the year because I was like, shit.
Oh my God, that was the same thing. As I hit a certain point where I was like, shit, I should probably watch some newer movies.
Yeah. So I don't know if there's a recency bias here or what, but a lot of times I felt like a bunch of these movies were super derivative of other movies in a way that was either like ham-fisted homage or like oblivious knockoff. And we'll,
I've got a couple of those as well. Where there's one where I was just like, how is this a prequel? How not just a remake of the original?
Yeah. So I was like, I'm like combing through these, and I was just like, man, these just sort of feel like other movies a lot of the time, which is that's kind of that's a cardinal sin.
Yeah. I mean, but also we're kind of at a point of cultural saturation where I feel like it's really, really hard to make particularly to make a horror movie that doesn't feel like a horror movie that's already out there.
That is true.
But it's just recognizing the strengths and weaknesses in that. And like, there are times when it becomes, in a couple of cases here, it becomes very easy for me to just be like, I could just watch the original movie and be cool with that. I definitely didn't need to watch this one, but
yeah. And that's not even talking, that's not a remake. That's just like, this is just someone else's movie that you're kind of ripping off.
Yeah.
All right, where are we starting?
Well, we're going to start with the bad because everybody loves a failure.
Yes,
that's where we learn. So I'm going to start off with Azrael.
I didn't see it.
Did not say. Okay, so it's got Samara Weaving. And
oh yeah, I like her.
Yeah, I do too. Whenever she pops up and whatever I'm watching, I'm like, oh yeah, it's good. It's
this is the one with like this. They're silent, right? There's no talking.
This, yes. So last year there was No One Can Save You, which also was another one of these like no dialogue horror movies that also ended up on my worst of the year list.
Which is like, that's a real. You got to be really fucking good at what you're doing.
Oh, exactly. No okay, so that is my main problem with this. So of all of the sort of movies that kind of end up on my worst of list, this is probably the least egregious of them, or like the least offensive. It's just, the thing is it starts out and it's like, this whole setting is very post-apocalyptic. It's all these people like living in these like weird camps out in the fucking woods. It looks like society has collapsed, but and it's coming like decades after like the rapture happened, which has very, very
like the actual rapture,
like
the biblical rapture,
yes.
Which I believe is not actually in the Bible.
No, but and so there is this implication that some sort of like like ascendance has happened, which has left behind everybody in this kind of like post rapture, or like I think the tribulation is what they call it.
Do we get piles of clothes everywhere?
Yeah, just people just left their shit behind. But like
supposedly that's what happens in the rapture is everyone goes, they nudely ascend.
Right. And so, well, how else are you going to get into heaven? You can't break. You can't take it with you.
It's like Studio 54. They really want to see they want to see the goods before they say yes or no.
But the problem is the way that the movie presents itself is it's just another fucking zombie movie.
So I watched the trailer for it because I almost watched this one night and I think I skipped it for whatever reason. I watched the trailer and I was like, this kind of looks like Bird Box, or like, you know, that there was a period there, like that pandemic era period where there was just all this really kind of heavy handed, not satire, but like commentary movies where I'm like, Jesus Christ, I get it. And I don't mean like the it's trauma bullshit. Like, I mean, just like stuff like this, or what's the one where is it called The Hunt, where they're like hunting rednecks or whatever?
Oh shit, yeah.
Just like really, it's post-apocalyptic, but it's like there's no fun to any of it. It's like that show The Leftovers where you're like, well, now I just feel bad.
Right. In this one, the reason that our main character is silent, I think because everybody else is they're all members of some cult that have voluntarily had their like vocal cords cut so they can't speak. So it's like a voluntary thing that she did. And the kind of ongoing threat throughout this movie is there are these like monsters that just kind of, you know, gravitate towards whatever they hear. But
you might say that this movie is a bit, these people are all living in a quiet place.
Yes. Yeah.
Something like that.
But there's all these glimmers of like a larger story. Like why, what exactly, how exactly is this, how does this rapture manifest? Why are there these monsters around? And who is this cult? It has this crazy fucking ending that I won't talk about because I don't want to spoil it, obviously, but it's all like, it involves like demons and devils and shit like that. But the problem is that when your characters are not able to sort of tell the story through dialogue, you have to find other ways to kind of tell the story. And this movie just doesn't fucking do that.
Yeah. And unless you're a silent era actor swinging for the fences with like, you know, going big.
Yeah.
It's not really in everyone's wheelhouse.
Yeah. And so it's just in the end, like without any kind of like any other way to sort of do exposition throughout the rest of this movie, it's just a zombie movie. And it's just another violent one. And I've seen so many of them, but like, otherwise, like it's not terrible. It's a humongous waste of potential, I think, is the part that I found most frustrating. Is like there's something happening here, but they just, without dialogue, they're not able to really kind of get it across. Yeah. So you want to take a swing?
Yeah, what's first up on my bad list? It's gonna be Salem's Lot.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
This one,
now,
I wanted to rank it way higher than I did in terms of like 2024 badness. But I think that the problem is that it's not as bad as like the worst of this year. It's just fucking dumb. And it misses the point
awful
so badly.
So I like most people, I'm a sucker for a Stephen King movie.
And the thing was they delayed this one for a really long time and it almost didn't come out. And I was like, well, shit, I'd love a new, like a run at Salem's Lot. And then I got it and I was like, oh, I see now. I think I understand why they were going to shelve this one.
Yeah, because this one, and I mean, look, Salem's Lot it's a really good book, and I am highly critical of Stephen King, but it's a great book.
It's my favorite Stephen King novel, which might have something to do with why I feel so strongly about this movie.
I don't know if it does, because this movie feels almost uniquely terrible. Because here's what they do. They ignore, and I don't want to, I'm not trying to like compare books to movies because they're separate things, but if you're going to adapt something, you're taking the core story. And the core story of that book it's kind of a melodrama. It's this kind of wandering eye melodrama, and they leave all of that out of the movie.
Yeah, okay, that was my number one critique of it when I saw it is it's just another fucking vampire action movie. Like it's 30 Days of Night. But like that movie, that's a good like example of this kind of movie. But Salem's Lot as a story, like as a book, is only partially about the vampires. The rest of it is this kind of like slice of life,
right?
Character story taking place in this like sleepy town in Maine. As this kind of as the town is sort of like actively dying and like in a sort of metaphorical sense, right?
And that's what gives the whole story stakes, is that you feel like you start to develop like feelings for these people, but you never do in this because they don't stick with any characters for a particularly long time. And the other weird thing is that like there are people like Alfre Woodard, like a powerhouse actor. You put her in the movie and you barely use her.
Yeah.
So it's like they left out all of the stuff that makes it a good story, and you just kind of get these violent set pieces that are like, okay, I guess. I will say though, the one exception I would make is that guy Spencer Treat Clark. I think he plays who's the cemetery worker?
Oh shit.
Ned Ryer. No, is it Ned Ryer? One of them. Like he's one of the lower people. He's the one who dies. Jeffrey Lewis plays him in the original one.
Right.
So he, I think, is actually pretty good in it. And there were a couple moments with him. There's a scene where he's in the bar and the other guy shows up, and like that's a pretty creepy scene. And they do like the kind of silver lights in his eyes. That ended up looking pretty cool. I thought the kid who played Mark Petrie was pretty good.
Yeah. But not nearly enough of him.
No. And otherwise, this movie is just dog shit. And the fucking ending.
I hate the ending so goddamn much.
And again, I'm not going to compare it to a book, but like, this is some dumb shit ending.
No, because the thing is like the way that the book ends is way closer to the end of like Dracula or Nosferatu, where it's like, okay, we get the bad guy, but like but that doesn't mean that's not really a win because the rest of the city is fucked.
Right. And so, but like, even in that case, it's like, there's a mundanity to it all of like, it's just like life in this town. Death in this town is also just kind of like, things just keep going on as they go on. And yet in this, they're like, no. We're going to give you an explosive ending.
Yeah.
And it is so fucking stupid. I was not on board with this one when I was watching it. And they got to the end and I was like, Jesus Christ, what the hell was that?
I know. This was this year's, for me, this was this year's Pet Sematary Bloodlines, which was also like arbitrary fucking like Stephen King story or Stephen King inspired story that like nobody really fucking wanted. And it was just it equally as like vapid stupid.
Man.
Yeah. But like, I got to wonder when it comes to Salem's Lot, is it even possible to do a feature length version of that book? Because it's a very dense story.
The TV movie, Toby Hooper's version does a pretty decent job of it.
It's also a
TV movie.
It's TV story.
Hours.
I'm talking like feature film.
It's tough because the story itself has a lot of like the characters all have a lot of interiority, and there's a lot like of narration that's happening. There's a lot there is sort of an omnipotent narrator throughout a lot of it, which is almost impossible to do in film without having an actual narrator, which is a little bit cheesy. Mm-hmm. And so maybe not. I mean, I think if there were a better director, probably a better writer, probably. But they just stuck with like, who's the guy that did it? Get him.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't very good either.
I don't know. I thought it was pretty good. But this definitely, the thing is this movie I think was produced like maybe like 3 or 4 years ago. And I
finished in 2022.
Okay. So it was, yeah. It was kind of coming off that like oh shit, Stephen King's at the box office again, like coming off the heels of it. And so they're like, let's do another, let's give them some more. And then it just kind of like sits on some shelves. I think the 2-part It movies kind of really hit it. They do it well. This did not. This missed the fucking this was a humongous whiff.
Yeah. Absolute garbage as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. So let's see. Did you see Mr. Crockett?
I didn't. Is that David Allen Greer?
No, no.
It looks like him in the ad. I only saw one ad for it. And I was like, that looks like David Allen Greer. And I was like, I should look into this film, and I never did.
It is shit, what is his name? I gotta look it up now. Jesus Christ. Elvis Nolasco. But yeah, like it's got a pretty decent cast, but like the story is there's this kid who like finds essentially like a haunted videotape that just kind of materializes at his house. And it's like the tape is a show called Mr. Crockett, which is like Mr. Rogers or Barney or stuff like that, where it's just a children's show, but like as they watch
really
it,
keeping
like,
it current with Mr. Rogers and Barney.
But like as they watch it, like occasionally the tape glitches and like Mr. Crockett will like be staring at the TV, like at the viewer, like all evil and shit before it like fixes itself. But
this feels like another story. Like this is another thing that we've seen a lot of in the past. Like this was that Channel Zero?
Yeah,
that sci-fi. There's like so many. There's a ton of shit like this where it's getting a little stale.
It's the curse of the kind of popularity of analog horror on YouTube. Because the whole thing is eventually what ends up happening is the kid in question is like, his parents are struggling. They're having a hard time, and they're essentially at wit's end. And so their behavior is not as pleasant as it could be, or it should be. And so Mr. Crockett, being this kind of independent entity, sees it as like abuse. And so he comes out of the tape and he murders the parents while the child like gleefully like hangs out with him. And
this sounds like it could have been a pretty decent short film.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And because that's the fucking end where and then the kid vanishes, and then it finds its way to another kid whose father has just died, and he's really kind of struggling, and he's probably about the right age. It's like I think he's supposed to be like maybe like a 10 or 11 or something like that. And basically it happens again where he's whisked away by Mr. Crockett. No, and he's missing, and his mother kind of goes insane. It happens again, only now like these people are starting to kind of find each other whose children have vanished under these circumstances. And it turns out that he's this kind of like demonic entity that is like seeking.
Is this a Dean Koontz story? This sounds like a Dean. This has
no. You know what it sounds like?
All over it.
When I watched it, I was like, this is the plot of Maniac 2. This was supposed to be Mr.
It's also the plot of the Pied Piper.
This was supposed to be Mr. Robbie, where he was the clown that would go out and kill abusive parents for children who wrote into him.
I would like to see that.
Yeah. But
somebody revive Joe Spinell.
Yeah, and the thing is like I saw a bunch of people who were like, yeah, no, this movie was good, but like I strongly disagreed, and I think that it just has a lot to do with the fact that I remember watching movies on video and shit like that, and this all kind of has that vibe of like what like 20-year-olds on YouTube are making, where it's like the back rooms or like Five Nights at Freddy's, where they sort of like present everything as though you're watching it through like a videotape, but like none of these people have ever watched anything fucking on VHS.
Also, it feels like the dark side of nostalgia. Like we went through this era of like nostalgia. We'll get to some of those later too. And then there's also like, there's a little, I don't want to call it backlash. It's not a backlash, but it's more like, oh, but what if nostalgia wasn't good? It's like, oh,
right.
Fuck's
right.
sake.
And my whole thing with like this, like my read on analog horror is essentially, what if somebody taped a birthday party at Chuck E. Cheese and the videotape had really bad tracking problems? Like that's the entire aesthetic. And so like the whole thing just kind of seems like this movie was targeted at an audience who's sunk years into watching Five Nights at Freddy's content on YouTube. Like that's the audience for it.
Hear me out. Movie pitch. Haunted wax cylinder. Haunted kinetoscope.
Yeah. Only the greatest generation will know. Yeah. Like
and they're all dead.
Ultimately.
Who's going to exorcise the demons?
Oh God. Yeah. Solid cast. Really, really pretty gory. A lot of rubbery special effects, but man, I just did not connect with this one at all. I thought it was really fucking boring.
Well, speaking of a solid cast, I want to talk to you about The Deliverance.
Oh, I didn't
Did you see The Deliverance? Okay. This wins for me. This wins the most confusing and frustrating movie. You have 8-time Academy Award nominee Glenn Close. You have Lee Daniels, who's also
God, okay.
Academy
I
Award
remember hearing
Lee Daniels
about this
sounds
one. Yeah.
crazy as hell, by the way. This guy sounds real weird. But he made did he make The Butler? I think was his big movie.
Is he like he's like the dark reflection of Tyler Perry?
Yeah, kind of. He made Precious.
Yeah. Precious is pretty good.
Yeah, he was nominated for an Oscar for that. And like the cast is pretty good. Like who else is Andra Day is in it. She's the star. She's pretty good. The kid who his name is Caleb McLaughlin. I don't know his name on Stranger Things. He's the black kid on Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Omar Epps is in it.
Damn.
Love Omar Epps. Great actor. This movie's fucking terrible.
This is the possession one, right?
Yeah, well, let's use the term possession real loosely, because this is a movie that is ostensibly trying to reframe a true story that appears to be about domestic violence.
That's right. Okay, yes.
A story about a suspiciously stereotypical demonic possession. It's mostly just this woman like beating her children. And then being like, but also there's demons. It's like, okay, well, both things can be true. You can be a bad mother and still have demons in the basement. You don't. Just a bad mother. It's a movie that is made by and starring talented or competent people, and yet it's a total train wreck. It doesn't make any sense. There's a lot of really weird choices. Like they make it is a true story, supposedly a true story. They make the grandmother a white woman for no particular reason. Like theoretically, that could have added some complexity or some conflict, but the movie never bothers to explore any of that, so it doesn't really matter.
It's like they saw her in Hillbilly Elegy and we're like, oh shit, we need more of that.
Yeah, kind of. And she just plays like a kind of a nasty person. She does say, I can smell your nappy pussy, which is a very uncomfortable moment. If you're Glenn Close, it must be even more uncomfortable. Netflix paid like $65 million.
Oh my God.
It is, words cannot express how frustrating I felt. Like I finished this and I was like, what is this? Why did somebody make this movie? Why did they make these talented people do that? It is, I don't know what else to say about it. Like it is just really bizarre. And it's like, this seems like a movie made by someone who was like, maybe on a lot of cocaine.
Really? A person who's just like, at least having cocaine confidence.
Yeah, because it's just like, and then there's flies everywhere, just the flies everywhere. Then they have a party, and there's a lady who jerks people off for money, and you're just like, what is happening? Why are these things happening in this order? And none of it makes sense.
Oh man, Netflix seems to be on like a fucking crash out speed run right now.
Yeah, because they were like, all right, we paid all this money for pandemic content. We got to run it out now.
Yeah.
Let's get it all out. We'll flush the system. We'll get it out. And we'll start over.
Yeah,
everyone's got to
I saw some a bleak article recently about the sort of future of Netflix content, where they're starting to target a demographic called casual viewers, who are people who apparently put Netflix on and then go do something else. And so they're like doing dishes or like folding laundry, but they're not watching it. And so but
you're like, I want to do the dishes, but I also want to feel like Chris Tucker is in my house.
Right.
He's just in the other room.
The writers of Netflix material have been instructed to have their characters say what they're doing in case you're not paying attention. You're like, you're vacuuming or you're,
It's like making movies for blind people.
Right.
Or as I call it, radio.
Oh boy. Yeah. So good God, Netflix, get your shit together.
Yeah, I mean, if this is any indication, this movie was really, really terrible, and I felt bad for everybody who was in it because it's like this story is awful. It's not only is it like a total bullshit story in terms of demonic possession. I know because I wrote it recently for Morbid, and it's silly, and I felt bad about it. It genuinely is a story about like a woman who is trying to cover up for the fact that she's probably abused.
Oh, good God! What a weird way to. Like a weird, yeah, that's the ticket. They're possessed. That's the ticket.
Yeah. It was really nuts, and I was just like, why are these famous people in this movie?
Oh man, I don't know. I don't know.
The Deliverance.
Yeah. Okay. So we've hit a few like real soft targets here. Like,
we're gonna start swinging big.
We're about to hit one that, man, everybody's gonna be so mad at me for this one.
It's Longlegs. Is it Longlegs?
It's not Longlegs. We're not there yet.
Okay.
It's Lisa Frankenstein.
Didn't see it. I will tell you, we had tickets to see it. We got they were like tickets to the Boston premiere of it, and we had them. And then I was like, yeah, sure, it sounds kind of fun. And then I watched the preview, and I was like, oh, this movie is not for me.
That I believe is the thing. Even though it's written by Diablo Cody, who is our age.
Yeah,
and I cannot fucking hang with her.
She's not doing it for us.
Can I hang with her? I fucking hate Juno. I also fucking hate Jennifer's body. I don't fucking get it. I hate her dialogue. I think it's more.
And look, I mean, these are movies made for, it seems for young women.
It was made by,
and I want to acknowledge that up top.
Yeah, I want to sort of say that because I don't want to really hit it too hard. But I watched it and I suffered through it. It was directed by Robin Williams' daughter.
Weird.
Yeah. But like, just the whole thing is, it's got that fucking chirpy Diablo Cody dialogue that just is like nails on a chalkboard to me.
See, I don't know if we are. I mean, obviously we're not the demographic, but I don't think we're the right age, and we're definitely not the right gender or gender adjacent.
Right.
I mean, but everything I've seen,
it also does a lot of the usual things that really make me fucking nuts. Is it has this kind of mythologized kind of neon and candy colored 1980s. It's
Earth. Where's the Earth tones?
I'm gonna say there's not a fucking wood panel to be seen. Like everything is.
Where's your mom's giant glasses?
It's pastel. Everything's pastel. Everything's glowing. It's got a pretty good soundtrack. And I think Catherine Newton is great. She's in a fucking couple of the movies on my list. For this
I feel like Diablo Cody's dialogue is always like, what if the Gilmore Girls were really annoying?
It's like that. Or like, it's to me, like at one time I described it, I think it was after I saw Jennifer's Body, that I described it as she hung around in chat rooms, like the old Microsoft Network chat rooms where like teenagers hung out and just like took notes on the ways that they talked, and then tried to write a whole fucking script with these like
she tried to enroll in high school and they wouldn't let her.
Right.
Like it's this discovery that like, oh, girls like sex too. Let's lean into that. You're like, okay, yeah, obviously they do, but why are you being so gross about it all the time?
I know, but I mean, it doesn't really end with that. I mean, like there's also like, was it Carla Gugino's in it? Like it's a solid cast. And just for me, the delivery was really fucking weak. And I just, good God, I know I saw it on so many like best of lists. I saw people just like in our Instagram feed, just fucking gushing over it. Sorry, everybody. I just could not fucking handle this one.
While we're trashing things people like, you want to talk about In a Violent Nature?
Let's talk about In a Violent Nature, because that was my least favorite of the year, like by a lot.
Oh, wow.
That was not quite as bad, but you remember how hard I went against Skinamarink last year?
Mm-hmm.
I felt that way about this one. Because there was so much fucking hype about this movie that when I finally caught up with it, I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, my first note literally says, speaking of overhyped movies.
I can appreciate trying to do something new with a slasher movie.
Except he didn't do anything new.
I can't think. There's got to be another slasher movie out there that does the follow the killer around thing. But as it turns out, we don't follow Jason around in a Friday the 13th movie, because as it happens, he doesn't really do much of anything but sort of stomp around in the woods.
Nope, he doesn't have any friends. He doesn't have a job.
No.
He has a passion, arguably, but that's all you're gonna see. No, this was originally my worst of the year, but then something else came along later. Look, I wonder if the guy Chris Nash made this movie. I wonder if he didn't quite know what kind of movie he wanted to make when he set out to make this. Like, he had a pretty good title and just sort of went from there.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way about like the way that the Terrifier movies have sort of evolved over the years, where like the guy was like, well, I'm really good at special effects, and so I'm going to kind of build a movie around some really elaborate kills, and then it just kind of caught fire. It sort of feels the same way here, because Steve Kostanski from that like Astron 6 crew, he also did like Frankie Frico this year. He did all of like the rubber special effects in this one.
Yeah, well, this movie, this has like all the depth and nuance of like a Boy Scout camp ghost story.
Exactly. And but also it's presented in a way that makes me feel like they were trying to get one foot in that kind of like I don't want to say elevated, because nobody fucking says that anymore, but like that like A24 neon kind of thing, because it's really kind of somber and serious until these like moments when it's just not.
Yeah, well, yeah, like the cinematography is great, I guess, but like the plot is so mind-numbingly shallow and stereotypical that there's no tension. None of the characters are likable. I don't give a shit.
I've got the same thing I've got where there's no suspense, there's no tension, because even when you're watching like, even if you're watching like Final Exam or something like that, even like the real like F tier slasher movies, you get
careful.
Yeah, I know. That's a stone cold classic.
Gonna get another write-in campaign.
You get these characters and you spend time with them, and even though they are just like stereotypes of the broadest type, you spend a little bit of time with them, and you don't have to like them, but there's
something endearing about them that you're like, oh, I'll stick with you.
Because it is always the same. There's the final girl, there's the horny couple, there's the Joker, there's you don't
there's
even
Radish,
like they can be the fucking most annoying characters in the world, but you still have time with them, and you still kind of connect with them at some level.
Yeah.
This movie, all you do is see them like through windows or from a distance. I don't even know their fucking names. And so
or like you get introduced to them and they're kind of loathsome right out of the gate. You're like, okay, never mind.
Right. And so when he finally gets around to killing them, you're like, oh, okay. I get like that's the thing that happened, I guess.
That's the problem. Is like there's no, in the absence of plot or conflict or tension or whatever, they fall back on these like ostensible attempts at shocking gore and violence. It's sort of that Stephen King thing. Like if you can't get him with this or get him with that, you got to go for the gross out. It's like, yeah, but
it's so totally out of step with the rest of the movie. Like the part where he pulls the girl doing yoga with the hooks.
Yeah.
What the fuck? How are we supposed to like it does like all you can do is laugh at that scene, but that is not the tone that has been presented to you in this movie up to that moment. So it's just like, what is happening right now?
And also like it's clear that they're trying to create a new horror villain, sort of like Art the Clown.
Yeah.
But aside from the kind of big weird helmet, this is just Jason Voorhees, but like somehow with less charisma and flair.
Right. But again, like a lot of it is like we just see him from behind. It's like a third person view of this character. He doesn't really have a whole lot of physicality to him. Also, I think the mask looks fucking dumb. My ultimate feeling on this one, like the thing that really sort of sealed the deal for me, like up to this point, I was barely holding on. I was like, all right, I know I'm going to have to fucking talk about this movie at the end of the year, so I'm going to watch the whole thing. The long, protracted final girl sequence at the end, absolutely fucking meaningless. It is very obviously positioned as though this was meant to be extremely suspenseful and tense. Like, when's he coming out of the woods? You don't know this girl at all.
Nope.
She has no story. I don't think she even has a name. So how am I supposed to give a fuck about what happens to her at the end of the movie?
Yeah. I honestly don't know why people latched on to this one. Like, I gotta wonder if this is like, look, it's a new thing and everybody's talking about it. It must be cool. And it's like, it is not. You made at best a lovely and yet bizarrely violent travel video.
Right. It's like, yeah, like come hiking in the Canadian forest and like,
yeah,
I know this one was, the movie itself is just boring and dumb. And like, I have no interest in this. If there's going to be a sequel, inevitably, I don't fucking care. I won't watch it. It was the sort of, viewer reaction that I think is the part that was most offensive to me, because I felt like I was being
because you're
gaslit.
like, what are you seeing? What are you seeing that I'm not seeing?
Right. Like, I just don't get it. Cause it happened again last year with Skinamarink, where there's this fucking legion of fans who are like, terrifying, scariest thing I've ever seen. And it's like, you're fucking with me, right? Like you're not, you can't be serious. You're like trying to pull one over. Like, are you trying to make me feel stupid right now? So,
and look, I will be the first person to admit, like, there are some things that are just not made for me, or they are not to my taste. It doesn't mean that they're bad or whatever. It's just like, they're not my cup of tea, but hey, fucking right on if you're into it. I honestly do not know what people find appealing about this movie.
Me either.
I thought it was boring. I thought it was stupid. I didn't even think the kills were all that interesting.
No, because there's two that are sort of positioned as like the kind of flagship kills. There's the one with the hooks that makes everybody laugh. And then there's the one with that sort of like pneumatic chopper. That's the other one that everybody was like, oh shit, dude. Like, that's so nasty. I'm like, I guess.
Watch a fucking Italian movie from the 80s. All right. That you'll see nasty.
Get out there and watch Dr. Butcher MD, where a dude kills a zombie with a boat motor.
Yeah. And that one is also kind of boring, but you're gonna love
but
the characters.
It's so gross.
Mm-hmm. Manja.
All right. So I've got did you see Daddy's Head?
No, I put it on and like shut it off within 10 minutes. Not for any particular reason.
So this one, the word on the street by the time that I got around to it was like, this one's so fucked up, dude. And with a title like that, I was like, okay, like I'll give it a shot. Like that seems
I don't
like
believe anybody anymore.
Peaches put this out there as one of the like one of those like fucked up movies. And so I was like, well, if Peaches said it was good, I'll give it a shot. And it would you believe it? Grief is the real monster.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Who'd have thought?
Yeah. So the story is about a woman and a child, and the man who sort of connects them dies in like a very horrible car accident. It's the kid's father and it's her husband, but she is not the kid's mother. She's like his latest, like his new wife and shit. And so
isn't this like the premise of Mama?
Is it?
Where like the kids get left with someone who is kind of just a stranger to them.
Yeah. And that's what it is like, so after this horrible traumatic accident, it's just these two people who are kind of stuck together through circumstance. And like, she feels absolutely nothing towards this kid, and this kid feels absolutely nothing but resentment towards her.
But I bet they bond at the end though, don't they?
Well, you might be surprised, but actually, yes, they do.
Yeah, all right.
But yeah, but like, then this creature begins to appear to, at first, just to the child. And it's this thing that lives out in the forest. It's monstrous, but it wears his father's face.
Okay. Like literally?
No. It appears to have his face.
I think they should have.
Oh, dude, that would have been that one. I would have been way on board with something fucked up like this.
Look, take notes, lazy
Jesus Christ!
filmmakers.
I know. I keep saying it. Hollywood, fucking call me.
I have pitched two great things. I mean, look, Haunted Wax Cylinder, a movie where a weird demon wears some kid's dad's face. Two great movies, right there.
Yeah. But like, but then the thing is it kind of starts calling to him from the forest, and the kid thinks it's really his dad. And this is a whole fucking struggle.
It sounds like an amalgamation of other shit. Like this, was that one, The Hole in the Woods or whatever?
This guy, I can't remember I didn't care enough to take down his name, but they watched, I say his, I could be a woman for all I know. They watched all of Ari
You
Aster's
didn't even care
movies.
enough to look up the facts.
Oh, Jesus, I just don't fucking care about this movie. But it's like they watched all of Ari Aster's movies and were like, yes, okay, I'll take a little of that. I'll take a little of that. And I'll make
Okay, remember what I said at the beginning about how all this shit starts to feel really familiar?
And the whole thing
That's
this whole fucking movie just sort of feels like a cash in on people who sort of gobble up that trauma as horror movie trope. Again, not for me. But also, I think objectively, it's just a bad movie. It's a boring movie. I think it's a little nihilistic in the way that I think it's sort of, I do honestly believe that it was sort of positioned to kind of hit that segment of the horror fandom who just loves all this stuff that's actually about something else, you know?
Yeah, they're all about something else. That's life.
But what I mean is specifically is like, oh, it's really about anxiety, or it's really about, you know, like losing a parent or something like that. Because I've got some other movies on here that sort of engage with horror at that level, but do it a little bit more deftly and more interestingly. This just didn't.
Right.
Yeah, it's on Shudder. You know, I don't.
After that glowing review, I can't imagine why everyone's not just turning this off to go turn that off.
I know.
Well, speaking of really bad things, how about Tarot? Did you see Tarot?
Oh no, I did not see Tarot. I avoided it on purpose because I knew I would not like it.
Now, look, some of the movies on these bad lists that we have are pretty terrible movies. This one is almost worse than that. It is totally forgettable. I honestly cannot remember a single thing about this movie. And
that's like when I saw I watched Dead Silence last year, and I got through like halfway through it, and I was like, wait a minute. I've seen this movie before, even though I thought I hadn't because I had zero memory of it.
Like this is this is like a generic teen. I think they're supposed to be in college, but you know, like
it looked like a movie for the Blumhouse crowd, and I was like,
yes,
it shut me down immediately.
It's PG-13. It has like some kind of convoluted story about demons or something. I don't know, but like the characters, you're either supposed to care about them or like look forward to their deaths. But I didn't feel either of those things. So when it happened, I was like, okay. Anyway, and like it feels so terribly predictable and derivative. It's like the least interesting of those like early to mid 2000s Blumhouse movies.
Yeah.
Like you know, like Oculus, like shit like that. Or actually, like that movie's not bad, but like stuff like that, where it's like, this is probably for an audience that is not me, but I don't even think that audience would like this movie.
I was going to say, like,
so
the way that I used to sort of characterize, like, the movies, like, whenever somebody would go, like, the sort of people who would go to see, like, Annabelle and stuff, again, like, no shade. If you like those movies, you like those movies, I hope you.
God knows I'll watch them.
But like for a lot of it, like the people who I would meet who would talk about those movies struck me as people who just kind of went to the movies on Friday with no mission and were just like, what's playing? And they were just going to go see that. Like, these were movies were made for people who are not necessarily horror fans or they're horror movie casuals. Right. You know, like I look for something a little bit deeper, you know.
And hey, sometimes a blind buy can really pay off.
Fucking A,
this
man.
one did not. This is like, I could not tell you a single thing about that. I couldn't tell you what the fucking villain looks like. I do not remember a single thing about this movie.
Yeah. Ugh.
Other than I thought it was bad and it was super forgettable.
Yeah, honestly, that is one of the worst crimes a movie can commit. Is like, if you like In a Violent Nature is a bad fucking movie, but at least we remember it and we remember it enough to like really fucking dislike it with a passion. The worst thing a movie can do is leave you with absolutely fucking nothing.
Yeah. That's like the worst kind of art, is like, I feel nothing.
Yeah. Yep.
Except for maybe a little bit bored.
Yep. Oh, so let's make everybody mad again.
All right.
Fucking Longlegs.
Oh boy.
You know, this movie is a tedious, convoluted slog from front to back.
I mean, I'm going to say this is the most overhyped movie of the year.
This is, it's up there.
I'm getting really into my
I will say that
right now.
I thought that In a Violent Nature was overhyped. This one eclipsed the hype cycle for Longlegs, eclipsed it. I can sort of see why people are so like, I don't know, weirded out by it. Cause it's,
I don't.
but like at the same
I
time,
guess maybe
my number one problem with this movie was that it spends so much time just throwing weird shit into the mix that it completely forgets to connect anything meaningful.
Yeah, here's what it is. Someone took Silence of the Lambs, Zodiac, and some other like culty paranormal stock stuff, threw it all into Chat GPT and said, write me a movie.
Yeah.
And that's what it spit out. This feels like a million other things I've seen. The acting is not that great. The plot is convoluted and weird.
Micah Monroe seems like she has no idea what movie she is in.
I didn't know what movie she was in either, to be honest with you.
She looks like, confused all the time. She doesn't really see like this. Like, I guess like Osgood Perkins like just announced another movie on the horizon. And as soon as it happened, it was out of my mind. Like this movie just turned me off to them entirely. I have no interest in anything that they're going to be doing going forward.
I mean, the ending was super predictable. A lot of this shit just feels really disconnected. I want to say the best thing about the movie were the frequent references to T-Rex.
Yes,
I'm into that.
I do like
Love
that.
T-Rex.
The thing is Nick Cage being Nick Cage. Like I think that him coming in and just going fucking ham on a movie can really give a movie an angle. This one, he almost feels like he belongs elsewhere. Like he's not really adding anything to it. He seems completely even though he's like the central killer, he feels completely disconnected from the larger story.
Yeah, that's my last note is that he feels like he's from another movie. And you know, but at the very least, like he's sort of interesting to look at and watch in this movie. He's not a good character. It's a very badly drawn character, but his performance is interesting in like a head scratching kind of way where you're like, I don't know what you're doing, but I do find it weirdly compelling in the way that I find like Marina Abramovich weirdly compelling.
Yeah, like, right. It's performance art that like, you know, the sort of shit that they do at the Guggenheim every now and then where you go and you stroke your chin pensively and you go,
Yeah, it's that. Or I'm like, okay. But then he's out of the movie and like halfway through, sorry for the spoilers, but like, and then you're just sort of left with this fucking sloppy, dark mess.
Right. And like the thing is like, oh man, if that movie had just been given to like an editor or just given to another writer for another pass, like I think that there is an interesting story to be told where there is like there's an FBI agent and they're chasing a serial killer. And the serial killer turns out to be the devil. Like I believe that there is a seed of a story in there. It just does not blossom in this movie whatsoever.
Also, it would not, what you just described would in no way be elevated to anything sort of like high-minded, like Silence of the Lambs was. Yeah. What you just described was some real like drive-in fare that would have been considerably more entertaining than this movie.
Once again, Hollywood, call me. Well, let's write a serial killer movie where the serial killer.
I mean,
you
just described 30% of the movies made in the 70s.
So right. Like a thief in the night.
Yeah. What else do I got on my bad? We're gonna pick up the pace. All right. I think I've only got one more left.
I've got one more left as well. I don't know. I don't think it's the same one as you.
It's not. So I'm going to hit you with the worst thing I have seen in a very long time. And that is M. Night Shyamalan's Trap.
How does this guy keep getting to make movies?
I don't understand it. There were other movies that I thought were really bad. And then I saw this and this blows all of them out of the water. I genuinely do not understand how he keeps getting money.
Niece put this one on a couple of weeks ago and I fell asleep within 5 minutes.
He made one good movie 25 years ago and everything.
And he's been fucking coasting on that forever.
Yeah, it is this slow spiral of like nonsense and hackery ever since. And so the biggest problem with this one is that it really feels like it's kind of little more than an excuse to shove his daughter in front of a large audience to help her build her musical career.
Yeah. I've been seeing, you've been seeing quite a lot of that. Like Adam Sandler does that with like all of his movies now where they all feature his wife and daughter.
Yeah, and like, look, and she's not even really the problem with the movie. Like, she's fine. She's mostly forgettable. Like, I couldn't tell you a single fucking song she sang. I couldn't hum a bar when at 5 minutes after it was over. She's not a very good actor, but like, that's not really the problem. The problem is that outside of all of that, it just feels like these weird vignettes that are sort of like really implausible scenes, and they don't really go anywhere, and they don't feel that connected. We never learn anything about the killer.
I remember there were times when I would wake up like periodically as she was watching it, and I'm like, why is he in a room with a SWAT team right now?
Yeah. And like, you don't know anything about like Josh Hartnett, who's a pretty good actor.
Yeah, he's been turning up in things lately, and I feel like he's been gone for a while, and it's like good to see him again.
Yeah, I think he seems like he went from being a teen-ish star to being like, what am I now then? And like it took him a while to figure that out, but once he did, he was like, all right, I'm this guy.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a little bit brooding. I'm kind of actiony, but I'm not an action star. But he ends up he's the killer in this movie, and that's, you know, that from the beginning. But like he's kidnapped some guy, but you don't know anything about the guy, the victim that he's kidnapped. You don't know anything about him. He goes to this concert with his daughter. You know, he can only do so much with this like mediocre direction and this terrible script. His performance borders on campy, but he never really commits enough to make it like to kind of follow through on that. And so it just is like this weird tone shifting where you're like, are you just a bad actor? Was I wrong about you? And then towards the end, you keep thinking the movie's going to be over. And then it just keeps fucking going.
And then Haley Mills shows up.
And for some reason, Haley Mills is in this. It is just nuts. I'm like, what is this movie? This and The Deliverance. I'm like, how did these movies get made? Who wanted to see these films?
It's yeah, from what I have read about it, it definitely feels like they were like somebody in a studio was like, hey, M. Night, where's these movies with a twist? Like where's those clever movies that you used to make? And he's like, all right, I got one. It takes place at a concert. And like it's sort of it's him kind of being a little too pleased with himself as usual.
Oh yes, this is a lot of self-satisfaction in this. But like towards the end, you can tell there's someone just off camera being like, okay, no, another twist. That one's not good. I need one more.
They got a gun to his head. They're like, give us another twist.
It really, it was baffling.
Yeah.
This thing got made because it's like it is complete nonsense from beginning to end, and like it doesn't hold together. It's like one song after another. It may as well have been a fucking musical.
May as well have been Smile 2.
I mean, look, it was Smile 2. The use of performance in that is gratuitous. This is egregious.
Yeah, I don't know, man. The thing about this movie is I don't know if I've seen. I don't think I know anybody except for you who's seen it. So I have not heard anything about it. I don't know what the sort of popular opinion of Trap is.
I would like to know.
I would like to know. Yeah, bring me the xpod@gmail.com. Listeners, what did you think?
Did anybody, listeners, did you like this film? Did you see this movie? Are you going to watch this movie?
Oh boy. All right. Here's the last one on my list. Everybody's gonna be so fucking mad at me. It's Maxxxine. It's fucking Maxxxine. I want to know. I want somebody to just fucking explain the appeal of Ty West movies to me.
Oh, hey, did you see House of the Devil? Is so good. It's like real throwback.
Everybody was like, oh my God, the House of the Devil. And I watched it and I'm like, the thing about his movies that I think really stand out to me more than anything is that he has no idea how to land an ending. Nope. His movies just
how to write a movie.
Just kind of end. And this is the latest, because I saw Pearl and I thought Pearl was okay, but actually the way that Pearl ends feels like it ends on a very kind of, it has the sort of flow and rhythm of a movie that you're familiar with. This one is like all of his other ones where like the movie just kind of putters along until it's just like, okay, that's the end, I guess. Roll credits.
I saw X, did not much care for it. I thought it was fine. Then didn't really want to see Pearl. I don't get it. I don't get the appeal of him. I think that he emerged at a time when people had just started to do that kind of homage nostalgia shit. And he is a talented director.
Yes,
He's
yes,
not
I'm
a
gonna give him
particularly
that. Like
talented writer.
he can frame a shot. He's he has a visual language that is distinctly Ty West. I'm gonna give him that. He's not a bad filmmaker. He's a bad storyteller.
Yeah, I thought House of the Devil was boring. I thought The Innkeepers was okay-ish. I thought that fucking Jonestown movie he made was terrible. And that's like, I don't think I've seen much else, but he just keeps making these movies, and it's like, okay, what are you gonna do next?
Like,
are you gonna milk this for
everybody
another one?
loves these fucking movies, and I just don't get it. I kind of and again, it kind of goes back to like my thoughts on Lisa Frankenstein, where it's like these movies. This is like supposed to be like, this is the 80s, but like this is the 80s if your only experience with the 1980s was Grand Theft Auto Vice City.
Yeah.
You know, like
this is the 80s if you were 10 years old when the 80s ended.
Yeah. And like it also, but like also like another complaint I have is it feels like it is two separate movies that are slammed together forcefully and are forced to interact, even though they have nothing in common.
It also seems like, and I didn't see this, but the reading descriptions of it and watching clips of it seemed like it kind of undermines a lot of what was laid out in the first.
I haven't seen X in forever, so
like she seems like she comes away from that movie and you're like, okay, well, she's kind of a decent, interesting character.
Oh, right, because in this one, in Maxxxine, she's a fucking piece of shit.
Yeah, and I'm like, all right, well, you put like, okay, you're gonna make the I guess protagonist-ish.
Yeah, like every fucking scene, she's like, she's got her face buried in a Tony Montana mountain of cocaine. She's got this kind of like driven quality, and the whole thrust of the story is, I'm gonna stop doing these pornos and I'm gonna be like a real actress, which doesn't fucking happen. But then it takes this like wild fucking detour into like the whole satanic panic thing with like hidden satanic cults and shit. And by the end, it's nowhere near where the fucking it's almost like it kept like. He kept writing and then would go on a tangent, and would go on another tangent, go on another tangent. And then rather than just fucking revise the story into something that kind of follows a single narrative arc.
Pick the one you like the most.
He just kind of goes off tangent after tangent after tangent and then just fucking ends it. And it's supposed to be the finale of this trilogy. It's not a satisfying ending at all. It's very frustrating. I don't know. I thought this movie was fucking terrible. I'm not charmed by Mia Goth at all.
I'm not either. I'm just like, okay, sure, she's an actor, I guess.
She's a fine actor. But she's got like this kind of like goth girlfriend sort of characteristic in terms of like the fandom, and I don't buy that at all. I don't follow it. It doesn't. She just doesn't really appeal to me in any sort of meaningful way. Like if she pops up in something, I'm going to be very suspicious of it, I think.
And like, you can make a movie. Initially, I was sort of like, I bristled a little bit to be like, all right, you've got this protagonist and it's sort of like a empowered woman, but now you're making her shitty and unlikable. Which, you can still do that, and it could still be a really interesting story. It could still be a really interesting, compelling character. I just don't feel like she is.
No, there's again, I'm mystified by the appeal of these movies. Because
I get what they're trying to do.
All three of these fucking movies were hugely popular, and I just don't understand it.
Okay. Well, hey, I hope everyone enjoyed that first hour where we just shit on all the things everybody likes.
It gets better. We do have movies that we like. We're about to talk about a few of them.
Yeah.
Actually, we're about to talk about a lot of them.
Yeah.
So I'm going to kick this one off with, I think you've got this one also, Godzilla and Kong, The New Empire.
Listen, this was actually on my good list.
I have this on my good list. I love what they have done with this.
So are we doing good movies?
These are good movies now.
Okay.
Yeah. I love what they have done with this arm of the franchise. They know that it's fucking dumb, and they really kind of lean into it. For me, it is a combination of these sort of outrageous and somewhat cringe 70s Godzilla movies and those convoluted 90s G-Force movies.
Yes.
I fucking love that. Also, I will watch anything with Dan Stevens in it.
Hell yes.
Yeah.
Look at after seeing -1, I saw the trailer for this and I was like, oh, this is going to be absolute dog shit.
That's the thing and I think that like with the way that Toho is handling Godzilla right now is they're being very kind of serious and very respectable about it because -1 fucking rules.
Mm-hmm.
But with these American ones, they're like, no, you guys can just do it for fucking stupid bullshit comes to mind.
Yeah, you've got a giant ape battle.
Yep.
And then you throw in Godzilla and Mothra.
And he gets a robot arm.
Yeah. And it's awesome. But yeah, like I went into it thinking it was going to be terrible, and I was really surprised by how much I enjoyed it because
I know this. I had the same thing. I was like, I've got nothing going on right now. I'm gonna watch a movie, whatever. This new Godzilla movie is like streaming. I put it on, and by the end of it, I was like, I'm entertained. Okay, yeah. I admit it. I'm entertained. Give me more of this shit.
They try to like sort of jam in the other like the Monarch stuff from the Apple show.
Yeah.
Like they don't try that hard though.
No.
And then there's like a little bit of like melodrama with like the surrogate mother-daughter thing, but like no one's here for that either, and they probably knew that. So they don't focus that much on that. It's like it embodies that sort of zaniness of the Showa era, where like where Godzilla's basically dancing and like doing the like put up your dukes stance,
and turning his head as Mothra's trying to broker a peace treaty between him and Rodan.
Yeah, and then he's like, "I'm just here to support my bro who is in some trouble with this other giant ape," and it fucking rules.
Yeah,
it was great.
Yeah, it's candy colored, and even the color palette of this movie is ridiculous.
Yeah,
it was fun.
It's also
it's
the critical consensus, because I did sort of look at this and it was all like, you can come for the giant monsters, but don't expect anything else. It's like, what the fuck else did you expect?
Right. It's kind of like I used to when those Transformers movies came out, I shit on I was like, God damn it, who the fuck would want to go and watch one of these movies? And then they put out like a Godzilla version of it, and I'm like, oh my God, I must have more.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I totally get it. It's fucking garbage popcorn that just happens to taste fucking delicious.
Yeah, Dan Stevens, fantastic. I enjoy looking at him as well as watching him act. He is in 3 of the movies that are on my.
I think I've got him on in 2, but yeah, big year for Dan Stevens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What's next? What do you got?
So we're doing good. We're doing good films.
Yeah.
All right, I thought we were on the mass, so I gotta.
Oh well, no. This is the meh. This is the okay section.
Okay, all right, yeah. See, that one's actually on my good list.
Oh shit. Okay.
I thought that was a good movie. All right, well, so I gotta find just some meh. Okay, those are yours that I didn't see. What's a Demon Disorder?
I've got that one also. Let's see, where do I have? Okay, Demon Disorder is also in my okay list.
Yeah, it was fine. I watched this one, I think, right after the results of the election dropped, and I was like, I want something. Like I was in the market for like something dark and incredibly violent and gory.
And this one fucking delivers.
This delivered in a really big way. Unfortunately, that's pretty much all it had going for it.
I love John Noble.
That's Walter.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. It's pretty good.
My whole thing was this goes back to when we were talking about I've already forgotten what the fucking movie was, but this is one of those movies where I think that they were trying to do the same thing where like, well, it's really about like a meditation on losing a parent to like a slow death like Alzheimer's, but at the same time, which I could definitely kind of see that because that's a little bit a part of it, but it's like way too gory. And way too. Yeah,
there's definitely like a trauma angle, but like they don't.
Way too explosive and gory and loud to be a fucking meditation on anything.
And also, the demon is just quite literal in it. Like this is an actual demon in the movie.
It's like, you know what it reminded me of is it reminded me of Where Evil Lurks last year, where it just throws you into a movie where like demonic possession is this thing that just kind of happens every now and then, and it really sucks.
Some people know about it and some people don't, or whatever. Yeah, I think they relied mostly on practical effects, which was a really good idea because not everybody did that. Looking at you, smile too. And I think that ultimately they managed to do a lot with a little. And so whatever this dude makes next, I'll give it a shot because I thought this was entertaining enough. It's not deep. It's not particularly interesting. It is extremely violent in a way that like I don't always love watching super violent stuff, but this is one of the ones that's kind of like it revels in it in a way that's
once
like
in a
it's
while,
fun.
I get in that mood where I'm like, I want something where like fucking heads are gonna explode and like guts are getting ripped out. Like I want something that's like hyper violent and gory. And like,
Yeah, like I want zombie.
yeah,
That's
and this
what
is
I'm.
and this was
I
one
want
of those.
New York Ripper.
When I put this one on, I was like really in the mood for that. And holy shit, it hits the spot.
Yeah, there's not a lot of depth. There's not much there. It's not like a rewatcher kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't see myself watching it again ever again. But like, it's worth the time if you haven't seen it.
For some free shit that's on Shudder, sure.
Fucking A. Yeah. Here's one that there's not really much to talk about. It's fine. Ghostbusters: The Frozen Empire.
Didn't see it.
Big step up.
Don't like the Ghostbusters
big step up
movie.
from the last movie. It relies way less on nostalgia than the last one. It is what it is. It's a new cast. They're trying
Bill
to
Murray in it.
Is he in it? I can't remember if he's even in it, but yeah, it's fine. It's better than Ghostbusters 2. They're setting up like a new kind of Ghostbusters franchise. I'll keep watching them as they come out.
I'm not a big Ghostbusters person.
No shit, because I love the first one like to death.
I like the first one. It's pretty good. Second one,
I very strongly dislike Ghostbusters 2.
I think it's fine, I guess, but like that's I think the only I haven't seen any of the new ones. I'm not that interested in them.
Yeah,
they're just a little too good. Like it's an era of comedy that I don't care for. That like early '80s kind of family friendly Saturday Night Live.
All right.
That I'm sort of like, I'll take my Axel Foley. Thank you very much.
He says the F word.
Yeah, like that's just it's just not my bag. Yeah. Not that into it.
Nope. Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. It's fine. I was okay with it.
That's the shortest review we've done.
Jesus, I know. In and out. I'm all about efficiency.
How about Mads?
Okay, Mads is also on my okay list.
Yep. It feels like a cross between Euphoria and The Crazies.
I was gonna say, did you see The Sadness?
The Asian one?
Yeah, it's the Asian one where instead of zombies, it's this disease that turns you into a hyper-violent lunatic.
So it's The Crazy.
Sure. But like instead of being like like 28 days later, you still talk and you're like a sadistic, cruel person. It reminded me of that.
The Raid.
A little bit like The Raid.
Okay. Yeah, I mean this was fine. I thought it started out with kind of an interesting premise.
It's super hectic.
Yeah, it devolves into like standard zombie fare.
That was my big problem with it. Is by the end of it, I was like, because the setup is definitely like I'm like, okay, I'm on board. First of all, they haven't cut, and I am a sucker for a one-cut movie.
Mm-hmm. I like that like none of the characters are particularly likable. It's a new, I feel like this is kind of a new style of storytelling, particularly around young people, where they're like, oh, they're all really into drugs and they're shallow and they're all having sex with each other. I'm like, okay, not all teenagers are like this,
I would wager that the vast bulk of teenagers are not like that.
No, and this kind of makes them out to seem like they're all just out to party, like they're rich kids. But I think it's well shot. It's editing, fast paced as hell. Like it really
rips
on.
the fuck along. Like I said, super fucking hectic. I think it's
gory.
Oh my God, it was violent. It is a perfectly functional zombie movie with a couple of twists. Nothing new going on though. That was I think that was ultimately is when the movie ended. I was like, I feel like I've seen this movie 100 times.
I'm like, oh yeah, like I think that was my thing. It's like I liked it to begin with, and then I was like, oh, I've seen this, and there's like a weird kind of like Ferris Bueller-y kind of thing going on. Yes. Like, gotta get home to turn off the sprinklers or some shit. Like, okay, yeah. But like it was, I watched the whole thing, so I didn't feel like turning it off.
Yeah. I got through the end of it. I mean, I watched the whole thing, so I mean that's something.
No.
Let's see. Did you see Frankie Frico?
I did not. I've seen their it was the last movie they did, Psycho Goreman.
Psycho Goreman, I think, was the last one.
I saw that. I liked that one. This one looks like it looks like Munchies.
It's Ghoulies Go to College, Munchies? Essentially.
Okay. Yeah.
Almost note for note. Except there's no college. Yeah. I love Steven Kostansky movies. I think that him and his whole crew, Father's Day,
There's a lot of creativity there.
Yeah, and he's a really, but again, he's a special effects guy who turned into a director, but it also, in like in a really weird turn, he turns out that he's actually a very capable director. He can make very serious stuff. The editor is pretty good. The Void is really good.
I saw that one as well. Yeah.
Yeah. But like this is him just kind of taking a break and doing something that's really silly. It's Ghoulies. There's even a character in the movie named Mr. Buchler.
I mean, look, if we're gonna do nostalgia porn, just go for the throat.
Yeah.
You know, at least they're like, I'm gonna do nostalgia for a weird subgenre that most people do not celebrate.
Right. This was such a weird one to like really kind of put up on high. The puppets are sculpted by Kostansky, vastly better than anything John Carl Buchler ever made. There's one of the freakos in it he only says one thing. He says shabadoo, like over. That's his whole thing. It's like a fucking catchphrase.
Okay. He's making Charles Band proud.
Exactly. But like also like thinking back on last year's list, this year's Onyx the Fortuitous for me, where like it's a feature film riding on a joke that lasts about 30 minutes. And then like after a while, I'm like, all right, I think I've had enough of this.
Yeah, I didn't see Onyx the Fortuitous, but I get the feeling that it's sort of like, oh, it's like if Billy Madison were a horror movie.
I'd watch a Billy Madison horror movie.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
so Frankie Frico it's fun, it's dumb, but it knows it, and it uses that to its advantage. It's a good movie.
So I'm gonna hit you with one that it wasn't good. It was strictly meh. But there's something going on there that I'm like, I
got a couple of those on my list.
So we're gonna talk about Oddity.
Oh yeah, Oddity. I have Oddity I have Oddity on my good list, actually.
Really?
Yes. I liked this movie. I wasn't like super into it, but I love the fact that it's doing something that I haven't really seen before. Like it's basically a haunted house movie, but rather than haunted house, it's like haunted objects. And at no point does this movie ever feel responsible for explaining it itself.
No, which I respect that, I guess. So the guy who made it
also
he says he's
big year for Irish horror movies.
Yeah, definitely. He was influenced by Creepshow and Child's Play, but I don't see
either of those in this.
In some ways,
I could see this as a Twilight Zone episode.
I was just going to say this feels like a long Twilight Zone episode.
Yeah.
It feels like the Golem in a way. I also kind of get the feeling like they probably had a lot more planned for the giant wooden creepy guy, but
no budget.
They didn't really have the budget for it because they kind of jaws their way through it when they have to use him. Like he's really cool looking. Like this is the centerpiece of this film.
Oh yeah,
like,
it's on the fucking
this
poster.
Giant wooden man. And yet he doesn't really have that much to do with the story. It's like a lot of people, the review consensus is like, it's unsettling and spooky, but like, I didn't really think it was either. I thought once you quickly realize that it's not a ghost story, you're like, oh, I know what this is. And I pretty much figured it out like real quick. And I'm like, so you're just kind of waiting for it to get to that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought it was good. You know, the acting's fine.
Yeah. I didn't in my sort of good list. I don't rank it super high on it, but it's definitely a movie that I enjoyed a lot more than I thought I would.
It's like an interesting bottle movie.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Cause most of it just happens in this one room. I would say about half the movie just is in that like little, that house that they've got, but it's just that like one room in that house.
I like that the main character, she's just kind of a bitch. Like she's just kind of an asshole. She just shows up in their house and she's just kind of a jerk the whole time.
By the way, I brought my creepy doll.
Yeah, this is for you. This is a gift for the family.
Yeah.
It has kind of a satisfying ending, I guess, in that like the person you want to get their comeuppance gets his comeuppance.
Oh, it's so cool too how they do it. Because he's such a fucking dick.
Yeah, it just sort of left me kind of being like, huh, I guess it was okay. It was real predictable.
Sure. Yeah, I can.
Like I knew exactly where it was going. I'm like, okay, I get it. But they sort of try to weave in paranormal stuff, but in a way that's like sort of like it doesn't make a lot of sense. You're like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It's directed by a guy named Damian McCarthy. And so like, I'll definitely be interested in whatever that dude does next.
Yeah, sure. Like I didn't dislike it. It was okay. I was entertained by it.
Yeah.
It had a vibe. That's
that's all you can hope for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was something.
In a similar vein, for me was Apartment 7A.
Didn't see it. I'm not sure why anyone thought we needed a prequel to Rosemary's Baby.
Well, here's the thing with Apartment 7A. It's technically a prequel, but it is almost note for note the same exact movie.
Which at that point, just watch Rosemary's Baby.
Which is my
unfortunately.
The thing is I didn't dislike it because it's not necessarily bad. It's just completely uninspired in the way that they were just like they just repeated the original movie, but it's got like it's incredibly fucking stylish. Like it's got some really, really amazing sort of like dream sequence moments that are very, very cool.
Do you think that's why they made it? Like that's like they're like, you know what? I don't really care about the story, but like we can make everybody look really good, and the costumes are going to be real cool.
Yeah, it's got Julia Garner in it. She's in Ozark.
I know that name. Okay,
she's Ruth. She's great. Holy shit, she's great.
I mean, like, look, the Rosemary's Baby is a movie that is made by an absolute fucking monster. Terrible, terrible man. It is a really incredible movie.
I know. It's one of those things. It's one of those things where you got to really fucking reckon with a few unpleasantries.
Between that and Chinatown, I'm like, look, I know he's an awful person. Those movies are really fucking good.
That guy could make a movie, but it's best to put the Polanski out of your mind for this because this is not even close to that guy's level. But it's entertaining enough. Also, I'm a sucker for religious horror. And this
was a big year for religious horror.
I've got like 3 fucking religious horror movies on my list, and they're all coming up in succession.
I steered clear of most of them, and not for any particular reason. I just didn't see them. Because I don't go to the movies very often. Not that they had this one was on Peacock, HBO.
Yeah, it was on. Oh, was it on Max? I can't remember.
But a lot of the ones that you saw that I didn't are because they're in the theater, and I don't go to the theater.
Yeah. What else you got?
Oh, Jesus. Let's scan down my list. It's the long. I think, you know what? Let's talk about Baghead.
Oh, shit. It was Baghead this year? Because I saw that one also, and I did like it quite a bit.
Very early this year. I enjoyed it. And I can't remember if I watched this around the same time as Oddity.
They feel very similar.
They feel very similar. It feels an awful lot like the vastly superior Talk to Me.
Right, because it has a very similar mechanic where it's like you have this thing and it'll show you something, but you only have so much time with it. And if you go after it, fucked up shit happens.
Yeah, so the premise, because this one's not one that's a little bit more obvious, the premise of this one is a girl inherits a pub that for inexplicable reasons is in Germany.
Okay.
Though it's very obviously a British pub. There's no particular reason. There's no bearing on the plot. I don't know why they said everybody speaks English. They're all British people. So my guess is something about a tax break somewhere in there. That's why it's in Germany.
Probably.
She inherits it, and in the basement there is a woman who kind of lives in a hole in the wall, and she has a burlap sack over her head. She looks like an old, like decrepit crone.
Yep.
And you put a thing in her hand, and she can like channel the person who it belongs to. But if she holds on to the thing for too long, she becomes sort of more autonomous and powerful and vengeful.
Yeah.
So obviously there are a million ways this can backfire. I mean, they don't really get into who is this woman in the wall. They sort of do. There's a cult aspect to it. There's just a lot of really unexplored shit that I think they kind of just assume the viewer will do a lot of the work for them.
Yeah. It's undercooked in a way that really is detrimental.
Yeah, because that's a real missed opportunity. It's like, you have an interesting story here. It's just not the one you're telling, because the one you are telling, again, super predictable. Like the second the fucking antagonist shows up on the screen, I'm like, oh, I know how this is going to play out.
Right.
I know what he's here for. I know what's going to happen. And it's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
And it kind of culminates in an ending you see coming from miles away. It's not very satisfying, but it's like, it's an interesting premise. They just don't deliver on it.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing that I really appreciated about it is mostly I have, again, going back to it, I've not seen anything really like this before.
Except for Talk to Me.
But I mean, like, the idea of this sort of like this creature that.
Yeah. That's, again, it's a cool idea, but they just don't take it where it could go.
No.
Instead, they tell you a real kind of like, a little bit of a trite story.
True. Yeah.
And that was a little disappointing, but it is aesthetically kind of interesting. It's worth watching.
Mm-hmm.
I liked it.
Yeah.
Again, I wouldn't put it on again. I wouldn't be like, oh my God, you guys got to go fucking see this movie. That's the problem with this year, is I feel like I didn't really watch anything where I was like, holy shit, everybody. Well, that's not true. There is one, maybe two.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it was just kind of like, I watched like fucking 25 movies that came out this year. And
most of them are just like,
90% I'm like, you could see it or not see it. You could just watch Scream instead. Whatever. Do what you want. Do what you want.
Yeah.
Watch what you like.
Yeah. So speaking of religious horror, did you see the first Omen?
Nope. I honestly was like, why are they making another Omen movie? Are we really there as a society? That's where we are now.
I don't know, because here's the thing, like this is a year positively crammed with paranoid religious horror. This one really shoots for the fucking moon, and it misses by a mile. But the attempt is admirable. It's very watchable, especially when compared to Apartment 7A. It has the same silly and then they got killed mechanic of the original. Okay. Where like they'll be like, you must listen to me. I have a dire warning for you, Senator Thorne. And he's like, oh no, my son is the Antichrist. And then they step out into traffic and get killed.
And they're like, plate glass right through your face.
Stuff like that. The fucking conspiracy at the center of this, utterly fucking preposterous. But it's also like really kind of ignorant of the paranoia of the 70s that spawned the original one.
See, that's the problem, is like, you can't just slap a fucking label on it. Like, you have to understand the context that led to these movies. It would be like if I made The Sentinel now with being completely ignorant of what, like, that fear of, like, that's not satanic panic. It's something that predates that.
Yeah, because there was a bit of that, but the sort of Christian paranoia of the 70s was all about the rapture and Armageddon. Yeah. And because it wasn't just this movie, this wasn't like born in a vacuum. It wasn't just this, and it wasn't just The Exorcist or The Sentinel. There were also these like weird Christian indie horror movies like A Thief in the Night that came out, and there's a shitload of them, and they made them all the way into the 80s until the 90s came around, and they were just started making them again with those fucking Left Behind stories. But like there's dozens of these.
Yeah, they're propaganda.
Oh
like,
yeah, it's 100% like
propaganda.
Repent, accept Jesus now kind of stuff. But like these were just like very high budget versions of those movies. This one is very silly. There's even like It's All For You thing, and then they set up a fucking completely unearned.
Well, I mean, there's got to be, because that's the best part of the movie,
right? And then
there are many times throughout the week when well, maybe not the week, but like each month where I'll just be like, it's all for you, Damien. It's great.
Yep.
That's why you should watch the movie.
Right. And then it sort of sets up a fucking sequel at the end that is completely fucking unearned.
And
it has nothing to do with the like Gregory Peck omen.
This is where we are in horror. Is like we're bottom of the barrel. The Omen is not a good film series. The first one is watchable.
I watch that movie every now and then, and every time I watch it, I am reminded this is not as good a movie as I remember it being.
No, because it's like Gregory Peck doesn't quite know why he's there, how this happened to him. It's like, I used to be very famous.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well.
Right, yeah. But I mean, it's watchable. It's not a bad movie. It's just not a terribly memorable one. You know, there was nothing about it that made me think, oh, this is going on the bad list. Like, it was a perfectly serviceable movie.
Getting a lot of that.
Yeah.
Getting a lot of that. I'm sensing the first section of this episode, very passionate.
This one is just characterized by ambivalence.
Yeah, it's a lot of like, well, I watched this movie. Did you see it? Nah, I didn't see it. Well, it's okay. Anyway. Speaking of that, did you see the new VHS movie?
I did not. I
Okay.
heard it was bad, and so I avoided it.
Where are you at with these?
I think they're okay. They're a very inconsistent series. Like, there are some that have that are just really good from front to back. There are some that have just a couple of hits and are mostly misses. But yeah, I watch them. I usually watch them when they hit Shudder inevitably. But like, this one came out and the word on the street was this movie is really bad. Like, none of the shorts are any good.
I'm not a big anthology person in general, like novel or like books, movies. I'm just not that into them. I prefer like a long form. Take me away.
Sure.
You know, Haruki Murakami. So I thought the last year's entry of this.
Oh yeah. I believe
good.
that one we both liked that one in our roundup last year.
This one goes back to alien stuff, pretty traditional sci-fi. Like the theme is like alien abduction or alien invasion.
Yeah.
What I like about this one, so what I like generally about this franchise is that they try to include diverse voices, at least the last few. They've really like pulled in a lot of women, a lot of people of color from different countries. There is an Indian story in this made by an Indian director. It's one of the better ones in the movie. Doesn't make a lot of sense. But it's extremely violent. I always feel like these are a lot of like, it's a little bit like the Frankie Frico and stuff like that, where you're like, you are a special effects person who wants to make a movie. And it's clear where your heart lies.
Right.
My biggest gripe with this one is that there is a very clear theme to the movie, and that is aliens and alien abductions. But one of them, it is called Fur Babies, has absolutely nothing to do with aliens at all. It's a completely different premise. And it is so glaringly different that it's almost distracting.
No shit.
And it is the one that is made by Justin Long and his brother.
Oh, okay. So it seems like they were like, oh shit, we got Justin Long. Like, we'll just let him do whatever he wants.
Yep. That is exactly. And you're like, oh man, come on.
Oh, you wouldn't make fucking Adam Wingard do this.
Right. And so it's like, and it's, I don't know, it was just a little bit dumb. I like that they use this series now like as a platform for new or up and coming filmmakers.
Oh, right. Yeah. I loved in the last one, like Gigi Saul Guerrero's one was fucking fantastic. It was probably my favorite one of the bunch.
Thought that
it's
one
certainly the one,
good.
the one that I remember in VHS 85.
Mm-hmm. And so there are things to like about it. Otherwise, it's sort of like it's alien stuff.
Honestly, in spite of the fact that like I'm like a certified UFO crank, I don't find the UFO or an alien crossover into horror terribly compelling.
Because there's not much to it.
I think that's what it is. Which is weird because like those stories are inherently strange.
Do you are you familiar with the term antimimetic?
No.
It's fairly self-explanatory, but the theory is that most stories that we tell, pretty much all the stories that we tell, are mimetic in that they mirror the world of people. Like, they may not be our experiences and our existence, but they are the human experience. Like, you can understand them because you've seen them somewhere or you've heard them or whatever. Things like alien abduction, that is an anti-mimetic story in that it does not exist. It's not a thing that actually happens. And so when it comes to conveying that story, it is extremely difficult to do because we cannot really envision it because it's not a thing that's real. And so we're just sort of like, okay, well, maybe it's this and they're gray and they have almond-shaped heads. And they get on the ship.
Well, you might say that the experience is alien.
Hey. And like, that's kind of the problem is like, there's just, you can't imagine what it would be like because you've never experienced it and no one else really has either.
Well, yes, they have, but.
And so, but you know what I mean?
I know
it's like, you can't describe it in that way. And so it just doesn't come across. You're like, okay, what?
Well, but that is what like kind of lies at the heart of the strangeness that happens in this, is that they are inherently alien in the literal sense. Like, it's something that unless you have direct experience with it, you cannot explain it.
And it's also why they tend to break down in like what is ultimately a human thing. It's like we project or anthropomorphize because that's the only way we can imagine a story. So they kidnap people to do tests on them. Well, because that's what people would do.
Yeah.
You can't imagine what a non-human entity would do because we don't know non-human entities. We've never seen them. We don't have recordings of them. So we just assume they do what we would do, which is pretty hideous shit. But that is neither here nor there. That has nothing to do with VHS Beyond. It was fine.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I get that. Perfectly serviceable. I'll probably get around to that one at some point.
Last year's was much better. Kate Siegel, the one who's married to what's his face, does all the Netflix movies.
Oh, yeah, Mike Flanagan.
Yeah, they did one.
Oh shit,
it was all right. You know,
right.
They're short movies.
That's cool.
They're better than I think that this series has progressed in a good way. Like the first one, you're like, oh look, bunch of white dudes made a couple short movies. Hooray! And at least now we're like, well, there are different people who are making them, and that's interesting.
Yeah. That's interesting. So let's see. Okay, continuing my religious horror. I believe this is the last one I got to talk about. Did you see Immaculate?
Nope. Massachusetts guy, though.
Really? Yeah?
I believe so. I believe he went to school with Mike.
Oh, no shit. Yeah, this is the movie that The First Omen should have been. This one was generally, I put this one kind of high on my list. I liked this one quite a bit.
There's a lot of nonsense going on.
Yeah. Utterly, the movie is completely, totally unhinged, but not nearly horny enough to be the sort of piece of nunsploitation that they were sort of marketing it as.
I love nunsploitation. That we need more.
We need more nunsploitation. Paul Verhoeven recently made him an nunsploitation movie.
Really?
Yes. Yeah, I have not seen it. I always intend to watch it because, man. But yeah, Sydney Sweeney, fucking fantastic. This is the movie that completely like broke all the conservative weirdos that had like determined that she was the sort of like anti-woke MAGA messiah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, they were like, and then the fucking globalists forced her to be in this blasphemous movie, and it's like, well, no, she's a producer on this movie. So.
What was she in though that made them think that?
I don't really remember what the fucking hubbub is. There's no logic to it. She was on SNL, and most of the sketches that she was in were all about how hot she is. And so because she's like, you know, she's a very, very attractive young woman. And like MAGA thinks that like all liberals want to make like men into women and women into men. Like she's this sort of like presenting as the like traditional. I know that's what we really want everything to be. But no, like, but because she sort of like presents as this sort of like traditional sort of very attractive woman They were like, oh, well, obviously she's one of us. And then she made this movie where she fucking spawns a demon and then murders it with a rock.
Yeah,
so
sorry, MAGA. All you get is Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, he's right. Fucking Kid Rock and Ted Nugent.
Elon Musk. Enjoy.
Yeah, right. We're gonna starve you of culture, motherfuckers. But this movie was fucking bananas. Just really, really, really weird and gory, and it was a lot of fun. It was definitely, of the three like sort of like Christian Catholic kind of Catholic guilt horror movies, this was the best one by quite a bit.
I think because I'm hype averse, that was probably why I was like, I'm the same.
I am the same way. It took me so long to come around to some of these movies, just because everybody was like, oh my God, so good, that for whatever reason, I will just be like, I have no interest in this. And then like 3 years later, I finally fucking watch it because I got nothing else to watch. And they're like, and I'm just like, I'm such a fucking idiot.
And they're like, fine, it was good. I hate you. Shut up.
Exactly. Shut up. But yeah, immaculate. It was good. Not great, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's fine. It's not good. It's not bad.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I think we're rounding the corner here. I've only got a couple more in my okayest list.
How about Smile 2?
Smile 2 is my next one. Yeah. I'm gonna say I liked this movie quite a bit.
Yeah.
I thought it was entertaining. I have a shitload of problems with it. One, I think that this is one of the worst paced horror movies of 2024.
Yes.
It is so fucking long.
Now, here's my theory, though. I think that, much like Trap, I think there was probably a clause in her contract that said she has to have a certain number of songs, because there is no fucking reason why there should be this many performances.
There's like four very elaborate performances of music. And the thing is like, she's a pretty good pop artist. And
she's fine.
The performances are interesting, but they're jarring, and they don't, it's like after
it's
like
not
the
Bollywood. Like
after the third one, I'm like, another fucking one. Yeah, this is not Bollywood. What are we doing here?
Yeah.
Also, my other big problem was, and I think I was texting you at the same time as I was watching it, it relies far too much.
Because I think I told you to put this on, because I was like, I'm watching it. It is extremely violent.
Yeah, right. And that was part of it that I liked, is just exactly how fucking gory this movie is. But it relies far too much on you having seen the first movie, because it does not explain what's going on.
Well, because it has a cold open that is based on the first one, and I don't remember the first one very well. Like, I barely saw it. I watched it, but I wasn't paying much attention to it. And it opens, and I'm like, wait, who are these people? Oh my God, why is he stabbing this guy in the neck?
Yeah. But I mean, like, I did eventually kind of figure it out and find my legs, but for like an hour and a half of this like 2+ hours movie, I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, what, like, how does this curse work exactly?
And that's, I think, part of what really kind of kept this from being a good movie, is that I don't really understand the point. Like, I know that it has this kind of convoluted possession story, but they don't really commit to much of it. They're like, oh yeah, it's a demon. Don't worry about it.
The demon is in the movie, and he is ridiculous.
Yeah.
When you see the smile demon, I'm like, are you fucking kidding me right now? You got all this money, and that's what it looks like?
I don't even remember seeing it. What is it?
It reveals itself on stage at the very end as she's doing the
I mean, I kind of love the ending. That's like, damn.
I do. Oh my God. I do love the ending that it's like, okay, basically the world ends.
Yeah. But like, there's this like, she's a drug addict thing that like, they really don't commit to that. And so it comes across as kind of like rich white lady problems, where I'm like, oh, all right, you could have cut all of this bullshit. Your mom's an asshole for some reason.
Oh yeah, I know.
It like, there's a real like Smile 3 coming soon. Like it's very clear
for sure.
what's
This
happening.
is probably the most forceful of the sort of new franchises, where they're like, we're making a third one and you're going to watch it. But I mean, it was good enough that like, if a third one does come out, I'll fucking watch it.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't understand the point of them. They're not scary. They are extremely violent in a way that is kind of satisfying. there are moments where they're like a little unnerving because the people do look upsetting.
Yeah.
But like
there's also going back to our Hellraiser episode with Elena. There's a lot of fingers in mouths in this movie.
Yeah.
And when that happens, I'm like, oh God, stop doing that.
It's another one of those like go for the gross out things where you're like, you don't really have much else going on here. So you're just going to make some shit look really upsetting and gross and violent. And that's fine. Sometimes you can get by on that. And I think this one does that pretty well. But there's a lot of shit that feels real shoehorned in where you're like, what? You just leave it out.
Right.
Because again,
it's way longer than it needs to be. It's super bloated. But otherwise, I mean, no, like in spite of the fact that there's some real glaring problems with it, perfectly functional horror movie that, like I'll go with it until the next one. Like I'm on board. Fine.
Yeah. I'll watch it.
Sure. And like rounding out my list for the okayest of the year, Terrifier 3.
Didn't see it. Saw the first one. That's it. I believe your son is very excited about it for some reason.
I called him a poser. Like he got that.
You called him a poser on Christmas
to his face. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he got for his birthday. He got an Art the Clown cake. I called him a poser then. He got that Art the Clown plushie for Christmas. I called him a poser then. But then everybody was like, they were like, you're not really gonna show.
Hey man, why don't you be a little nicer to your kid?
I am nice as hell to that kid, but he's a fucking poser. All right. This one for me. So here's the thing. I'm really torn about these movies. When I first, again, hyperversion. When I first heard about this and everybody was going ape shit about it, I was like, it's a fucking clown. Like I hate the clown trope. I don't get it. It's not fucking scary. I don't understand it at all. But when I finally, it was like a couple of years, it was right as 2 was coming out that I was like, maybe I'll fucking watch this. And I watched it, the first one, and I was like, okay, there's something there. I don't like how fucking mean the violence is. Because
and
like I think
really misogynist.
I think extremely, and it doesn't get any better. It just gets fucking worse. And I think that like it's almost like Damien Leone heard that after the second one, and it was like, well, fine, I'll chainsaw a guy up the ass in the third one. How do you like that?
Like, no, man, that's not what we were saying. Jesus Christ, stop acting like a 5-year-old.
I know. So the thing is I think Art the Clown is a fucking revelation. David Howard Thornton is the actor who plays that character. He's fucking amazing. I think he is incredible. And these movies are as enduring as they are, I think, entirely because of him. He is so fucking good as this character. He deserves a better movie than this, though.
I saw the first one and I was, it's gross in a way that I was like, I've seen this before. The clown thing I think is fucking stupid. The misogyny was really what put me off, where I was like, I don't want to watch this. It's one thing to see this stuff in the 80s and the 70s. It's quite another to see it in a modern movie where you're like, you got to be better than this.
Yeah. And then part 2 came out. I saw part 2. And again, I was like, there's something happening here. That movie is 2.5 hours long. It doesn't, and again, it fucking doesn't need to. And I was like, that's a huge fucking problem. Maybe they'll have it figured out. But like this whole idea of there seems to be like a bigger story kind of starting to coalesce here. And they're going to kind of move it into a third one where like it all kind of comes together and sort of does. It doesn't. Part 3 is fucking nonsense. It's a little shorter than part 2, but it is super fucking bloated. It is so goddamn long and nothing fucking happens in it.
Did you watch, you ever see that show Broadchurch?
Yes.
First season of Broadchurch is, in my estimation, one of the greatest seasons of television ever created. It is extremely dramatic. It is a very compelling and profoundly moving story. The guy who made this was like, oh no, I've had it planned out 3 seasons. That's always been my plan. I started watching the second season and I was like, bullshit, you did.
It was like when The Matrix was really big and they were like, oh shit, Wachowski's,
fucking liar.
What else you got? And they were like, oh, we've got like a whole trilogy planned. And then the sequels came out. You were like, no, you fucking didn't.
Or like when people were like, oh yeah, they always planned that Scream was going to be a trilogy. And it's like, no, they didn't.
Yeah,
nobody fucking greenlights a trilogy off from a nobody and then attaches a has-been-ish director to it. Like, it's not the way this shit works. And so that's the way that feels to me, is like, no, this got really popular. Then you decided you had a lot of lore. The problem is that you're not a very good writer.
He is an outstanding special effects technician. Like these, they are unreal. Like the fact that there's always a sort of flagship kill in each movie, and they're very nasty and they're very mean, which is the thing. There's a sadism about this, which he might see it as smirking and ghoulish, but the way that I receive this is this shit is like serial killer sadistic,
and it undermines the fun of them,
because it is like Art the Clown's antics are awesome. He is legitimately fucking great. I think that character is so cool. But when he because in the second one, there's another, okay, we got to kill a girl again. And he rips her to fucking pieces.
Yeah. That I can't get behind that.
And not just that, leaves her alive. So her mother finds the fucking body of this girl as she takes her final fucking breaths. There is a weird cruelty about this that gives me the impression that maybe this guy has hurt an animal or two in his past, it's that kind of sort of meanness. So this movie is just this whole series is a bunch of just clashing concepts that don't really work for me. And on top of the fact that functionally it's not a very good movie. It's just floated by a couple of really fucking stellar performances and some really, really good, just rubber effects work. When Terrifier 4 inevitably comes out, I'm probably not going to watch it.
Sake. I mean, it sounds like one of those movies where he's like, I'm building lore, but it's like, yeah, but you're not particularly quick or witty or intelligent. And so your story just comes across as really blunt and stupid and violent.
Yeah. And the thing is if there is lore, you got to answer some questions eventually. But he doesn't. He just keeps tacking more onto it. It's kind of like how Lost got after about 4 seasons of Lost. You're like, okay, they're just making this up as they go
where
along.
You're like, oh my God, this is so good. And by the beginning of the 3rd season, you're like, oh no, you just got lucky.
Yeah, right.
You're not that good at this. And it's kind of like the way we occasionally reference Last House on the Left, where it's Last House on the Left is not a very good movie. It is a particularly mean and cruel movie in a way that I think everybody who is involved in it recognizes and doesn't like.
Yeah.
And that's sort of why it reached a particular height because of that. And it's important for a lot of reasons, but it's not a movie I recommend people watch because it is very mean. And it takes the fun out of horror. And you're like, oh, right, this shit does happen to people sometimes. And I say that as someone who spends every single day reading about the real life horrible shit that happens to people. And I assure everybody it is not funny, it is not cute, and it is not quippy and witty. It's just disgusting and terrible. And so it's that's kind of the way I feel about these is I don't want to watch that. I don't want to watch people be in addition to being ripped apart, I don't want to watch someone have to watch that, or to be heartbroken by that.
Right.
That's not fun. That's terrible.
That's the thing is with the Terrifier movies is there's always an element that pushes it too far.
Yeah.
There's
a reason why, Friday the 13th is dumb and stupid, and that's why we enjoy it, because it stops short of being oh, right, this shit actually does happen sometimes.
Right.
Because that's when it's not funny.
Yeah. So, you got anything else in the...
I got a lot more, actually.
2024's most okay movies?
Yeah, I think I watched a lot more than you did, I guess. At least when it comes to the...
I think some of your okay movies are on my best of list.
I don't know. How about Under Paris?
Oh, no, I didn't watch this one.
Oh. Now, see, I love an animal attack movie. I love a disaster film. Put them together, and I'm in. 100%. This movie is basically Jaws in France. There's a little bit of
the thing is, I'm very, because there are so many shark movies, I just sort of assume that they all suck.
They do.
And so I don't watch
They
them.
usually do. Yeah. This is Jaws en France. A shark.
Les Jaws.
Yes, it is Les Jaws. In the shark gets into the River Seine, and wrecks some havoc, as a shark is wont to do in fiction. No, it is literally like the mayor of Paris is like, we cannot shut down the, I don't know, some bullshit swimming thing.
It's July 4th.
Yeah, it is basically, it is Bastille Day. So it's a real, like, it's just, it is dumb and fun, and it's a little bit gory. If you have no expectations, you just go in and be like, I'm going to watch French people fight a giant shark. It felt a little bit timely because it's around the time when the Olympics were happening and people were like getting really sick because they were swimming in that shitty water. And there's this great scene.
Yeah, they get in there. They're like, the goggles do nothing.
Seriously.
Sacre bleu.
My children, they need a wine and cheese. Apologies to every French person ever.
We gotta get some Simpsons references in here.
Gotta take it where I can get it. There's a scene where do you know the real story? Well, one of the real stories behind Jaws, the New Jersey story,
right, yeah.
Where there's like a bull shark gets into there. I think it's an estuary or something. And it's a big aggressive shark, and it's sort of stuck in this very small area, and it can't figure out how to get out. So it's real freaked out. And it starts to attack the children that are swimming. And there's a guy who's sort of either walking by or on the beach or whatever. And he's trying to pull the kids out. And so he jumps in, the shark then swings and grabs him too. And there's a part in this movie that is very much that, where it is just going hog wild. It is grabbing everything in the water. It is fantastic. It's just chaos all the way down.
All right. I might get into that. I might watch that.
There's a sequel coming out. You better believe I'm gonna watch that too. I love a shark. Let me hit you with a big old bucket of disappointment. Alien Romulus.
Oh, really? All right.
Did you see
it? Here's the thing is I've seen all of them up to, I think I might have seen all of them up to the last one. And I think that these more recent ones are okay. But I'm never terribly enthusiastic about them when they announce a new one. Okay, well,
20th Century Fox hears you, and they want you to know they just remade the first two. I had high hopes. I think Fede Alvarez is an interesting director.
Oh, sure. I really, really like that Evil Dead movie.
I hated that one, but I still think it had some good direction with, lighting notwithstanding. I just think it's interesting. I like the idea that we have an international director coming into, I guess for the second time, coming in to direct one of these big ones. And who doesn't love an alien movie? Unfortunately, it fails on just about every level.
Oh, that sucks. I kind of feel like that was the general vibe. I don't think I saw anybody who was terribly enthusiastic about it.
And I don't know that that's his fault necessarily. It's a problem of writing. It's almost certainly a problem of studio interface.
I was going to say, these feel like a very managed IP at this point. That's
the biggest problem.
Yeah.
Is that it feels like a movie that is more interested in homage and fan service than it is in sort of making their unique entry in this franchise.
Yeah.
It's so heavily reliant on existing characters, sets, and storylines and plot points from the other movies, almost to the point that you feel like you're sitting there with someone who's nudging you, going remember that? Remember that from the other one? Yeah. Oh, did you see that? You remember that character, right? And you're like, Jesus Christ, just tell the fucking story. The music is really reminiscent of Goldsmith and Horner's scores. The acting is fine, with the exception of the CGI Ian Holm.
Weird.
That's like real uncanny valley shit. It feels disrespectful.
Is it supposed to be like a prequel to the first one?
It takes place between the first and the second.
Okay.
And I guess it's
what is it about the LV-246 colony?
I think so.
Huh.
No. It's like, I guess they maybe come upon the ship.
Okay.
The Nostromo. Nostromo, is that right?
Well, yeah, but the Nostromo is destroyed at the end of the first one. And it's just Ripley's sort of escape vessel.
Okay, then. Well, for some reason, Ian Holm is still on it.
Okay.
It's the CGI scans that they did of him from Lord of the Rings, which feels real shitty to me.
Weird. Okay.
And they use like AI to make this.
Get the fuck out of here with
which kind of makes me wonder. Like, remember when everyone was all fucking outraged? They're like, "Oh, they used in Late Night with the Devil."
Yeah, they used AI to make a picture,
and nobody seems to fucking mind that they take old CGI and use AI to make fake Ian Holm against everyone's wishes. It's like he's a big character in the movie. He's one of the main characters.
Weird.
They just sort of prop up half his body on. Because he gets like sliced in half in the movie. Right.
Because she smashes him to pieces.
Yeah, and so like there's that. Everybody in it is really unlikable except for like the android character, who is like one of the better actors in the movie.
Yeah.
Everybody loves a xenomorph story. Love to see him get in there and like.
Lord loves a xenomorph.
Yeah, you'll love to see him get in there and just tear through shit, spit all over people, and their little tiny mouths. I'm just gonna eat you with my little mouth. There's so many times where they like redo that moment, like the moment where she turns her head away,
right?
And it like sticks the thing. They do that like 3 or 4 times in this. And it's like, hey man, the magic is gone.
I know.
Yeah, it happened once. You could have done it one time, and I would have been like,
It's been memed to death online.
By the end, it just feels like this really cynical cash grab that is like, it is not fresh, it is not interesting, it just feels bad.
It's one of those ones that it's like, I don't know who they're making this movie for. Like, it's almost like they're like, you're gonna like these alien movies, and we're gonna keep making them, and you're gonna fucking like them. Like that's the attitude I get from the studio.
I would say I enjoy the Paul W.S. Anderson alien movies more than this one.
Oh shit.
Yeah, but I also like Resident Evil.
All right.
Fine. Like the only thing that really saves this from being bad is that it is well shot, the acting's decent, and it's pretty action packed, but it lacks every other thing that makes these movies good.
Gotcha.
And let's be honest, the only 2 good alien movies are the first 2.
Fucking A.
So I'll watch the rest of them, but the first 2 are the only good ones.
Yeah. All right. What else you got?
I think the only other one I got on my list is Late Night with the Devil.
No shit. That one just squeezed into my good list.
I'm not on board with this one.
Really? Because I like this one.
Right.
I like this one. I liked it, but I wasn't like crazy about it.
I'll tell you what. I think this one was way overhyped yet again, but I'm gonna give them credit. I think that this is a husband and wife that made this.
Yes, yeah. They like a couple of Australian folks.
Okay. A lot of good horror coming out of Australia right now.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. You know what they ought to do? They ought to
Yahoo Serious.
They ought to play Yahoo Serious 2 Electric Boogaloo. The cars that ate Yahoo Serious.
Right.
That's the horror movie I want.
Sons of Steel 2.
Oh, no. But look, I'm going to give them credit. I think that they try for something a little bit new. They allow their influences to fuel their imagination rather than ripping something off or making something derivative that's from the 70s and 80s.
I'm going to go with you 100% on that. My favorite thing, I loved the aesthetic. I think the cast is great. I think that the whole thing really nails the look of those 70s late night panel shows.
Yeah.
And how Johnny Carson would occasionally bring Uri Geller on with James Randi. to just sort of like banter and be shitty to each other for like a
and
15-minute segment.
Like, they didn't just read a Time magazine article and be like, all right, we're throwing that in. They really seem to understand that dynamic. That like this happened a lot where they would just put like Joe Nickel and fucking Ed Warren up on, you know, Sally Jesse Raphael and let these two bitches scratch it out. Like that's like, they understand it. Like this was a dynamic and this was a thing that people really wanted to see. And this is really what it looked like. These people would just kind of snipe at each other in weird ways that felt like weirdly passive aggressive and personal to the point where you're like a little bit uncomfortable. Like they really nailed that.
Yeah. You know what, my biggest, I think that my gripe with this movie that I would have liked it a lot more than I did is that my biggest problem with it is overstuffed.
Yes.
There is so much extra shit in here. There is this like subplot about the Bohemian Grove and like this whole shit with his wife. Like if they had just staged a TV show.
Yeah.
And they had left all of that stuff out and just done sort of like a Ghost Watch BBC kind of
thing. Okay, so we are 100% on the same page because what I said, my final takeaway of this is that this left me wishing that I had watched something that had already done this better, like Ghost Watch.
Right. I liked this movie a lot. Like again, the reason that I liked this is I have not really seen anything like this, at least recently.
I've seen Ghost Watch, so
and they've done it, and they did it really well. Ghost Watch is really kind of special because it's not a production. It's like they use real like BBC anchors and shit like that, like to kind of convince to sell you a little harder on the fantastic
to convince a mentally ill young man to kill himself. Is what they did.
Late Night with the Devil is not that.
Nobody killed themselves after watching Late Night with the Devil because they thought Satan was real. That I know of.
No, but they stuff it with too much subplot, and I think that this movie would have been much better if it were just like, this is a lost episode of a TV show that kind of like was curtains for this host's career.
Yes.
And they left out all the subplot stuff. It would have been a way better movie.
Yeah. There's like, and now she's levitating and there's lightning shooting out of her eyes and there is the devil right there. And you're like, Jesus Christ.
I did. It has to have an all hell breaks loose moment. But that was about where it started to lose me.
My biggest feeling at the end was there. So the end of Ghost Watch is particularly good because you get these people just being like, oh my God, what have we done?
Yeah.
This is terrible. And like, it all just kind of goes to hell and they just sort of walk away. Whereas this, it's like literally everything's exploding and there are demons flying around. You're like, all right, come on, man. you didn't have to take it there. You could have just scale it back a little bit. So I didn't think it was bad. I thought it was way overhyped. I thought people were way more generous than it was deserving of. And I think some of that probably comes from people being less familiar with some of the deeper cut movies that I have thought of, that I was thinking of while I was watching this. Like Ghost Watch, you couldn't get until recently. I was
going to say, that until like, I don't know, I'm going to say until maybe like 20 years ago, Ghost Watch was really hard to get in the United States.
Not even 20 years ago, until like 2 years ago.
But everybody in England knows that fucking story.
Yeah.
I don't know. I enjoyed it a lot. Like obviously much more than you did, but like I thought
it was okay.
Yeah, like good. It was enjoyable. Overhyped, maybe a little bit. I think that's definitely the Shudder effect because they've got AMC money behind them, so they can really ram shit down your throat.
And we do get a Michael Ironside voiceover, which is great.
Oh, he's always welcome in my house.
Love Michael Ironside.
Yep. Yeah.
I think that's the last of my. So now we've moved past the challenging part of.
All right. So these are movies that I and Dave were both. Well, we'll see. We're both quite passionate about, and I want to say continuing in our trend of big year for Ireland. All You Need Is Death. Was
this one I'm a little bit meh on.
Was one of my favorites of the year. I really the thing is I don't like how it ended.
I hated the ending.
But the way that it sort of builds and the central premise of this idea that like there are people out there who are just trying to preserve folk songs that are only just passed down sort of like from singer to singer. I think that's really fascinating. But the fact that there's this whole kind of undercurrent of people who are looking for songs that are kind of dangerous.
This is the part that bothered me a little bit. So I really like that central premise, this idea that there is these like folk traditions that are they're just oral traditions. That's all, whether it's folk songs or stories. I like the idea that they're, could be built into that some sort of like witchcraft or magic. I think that's kind of a cool idea. Where they sort of lose me is that there's this weird like nerd culture that's like, I gotta find the hottest one. Like, what?
We gotta find the hottest folk songs.
Yeah, and then like it sort of slowly goes off the rails. Do you want to say what this movie is actually about?
So yeah, if you've not seen All You Need Is Death, I strongly recommend that you do. It is about this couple who they go out around Ireland and they record like old folk songs.
One of them is Russian for no particular reason.
Yeah, for no reason other than
because he's actually British.
That actor is just Russian.
No, I think he's British.
No shit. Okay, then I'm
pretty sure he is. His name is Charlie.
Right. And so what they do is, and then they bring it back to this archivist who seems to be looking for something in particular.
Yeah, like she's a little bit sinister. It's like, look, I used to exist in a world with lots of archivists. I assure you, none of them are sinister. Nerds, yes. Sinister, no.
And so they go from place to place and they record these songs, often without the permission of the people singing them. And what they're looking for is this one song that seems to be eluding them. It is very old. It's old. It's very rare. Apparently this is a thing that's like real in sort of like in like Irish folk singing culture, is that there are just songs that only certain people know. And when they die, the knowledge goes with them.
This is a thing that was actually kind of real in the 60s, 50s, 60s, maybe into the 70s in the US, where like, that's what field recordings were, is like they would go out and record like old blues songs, like shit that's just like they didn't record records. Like, these are just songs like field workers, or like chain gangs and shit like that. And that's why we have like the Smithsonian Folkways collection of like archive of these songs, because otherwise they're not the type of thing that you make records of.
Right.
And so that's sort of what this is.
Yeah. So what ends up happening is they meet this woman who reluctantly agrees to sing a song for them that is called "Love Is a Knife with a Blade for a Handle."
And she's the woman from
that Texas Chainsaw Massacre thing
and Texas Chainsaw. And she was in Mandy. She's in another one of the movies we watched this year too.
But yeah, she but she has these conditions that only the women can hear the song, and nobody can record it. So she sings the song, and it is this like super minor key song that's supposed to be a love song, but it's really about obsession. And this like horrible thing an ancient king, like a Pictish king, did.
It's like pre-Celtic, pre-Irish.
Yeah, like it's even in a language nobody knows.
Yeah.
And so inevitably a dude hears it, and what it does is it fills him with the same sort of like obsession that the king in the story does, and like he is literally sort of consumed by his lust for this woman. And the movie kind of goes off the rails as there's another sort of like he vanishes with the archivist, and his girlfriend teams up with another guy to go and find him, and like they kind of become obsessed as well. It ends a little muddy. The thing is this is director Paul Duane. This is, I believe, is his first feature, and it definitely feels like a first feature.
Yes, very much so, because I did enjoy it, but like it really like back third of the movie feels like a different.
Yeah. Because what ends up happening, it's a pacing problem. You spend a lot of time with the sort of like searcher couple, and then all of a sudden we switch back to the other couple, and it's like, oh shit, some things have happened. I see.
Yeah. Oh, weird. He's like a weird, gross vampire now for some reason.
Yeah.
But
it's
like
just, the whole thing is really kind of wobbly in its presentation. Also, there's a shitload of loose ends.
The characters start making choices where you're like, this seems out of character for this person. Like all of a sudden she like the woman, the younger woman becomes like real vindictive in a way that you're like, what?
I know. Unless, I mean, again, I feel like it's just sort of like a deficiency of story where like maybe that's the effect the song has on her. I don't fucking know. I can only speculate. And like, that's not really what we're supposed to be doing here. Like the story is supposed to, you know, inform your understanding. But
I mean, I liked it. I liked the premise a lot more than the execution.
Yeah. Very weird fiction. Again, super original. That's why I liked it as much as I did. Is I love weird fiction, and I've never seen anything like this one. It's a really great first feature for Paul Dwayne. I can't wait to see what he does next.
Yeah, it definitely had that like early era weird fiction, like 20s, 30s.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it absolutely does. It feels like August Derleth or something like that.
Yeah. So I did not like it. I was just sort of like, it wasn't great. It had a lot of problems, but I did enjoy it.
Yeah. So that one's just kind of like lowest on my best of list. What do you got?
How about Abigail?
I fucking loved Abigail.
Yeah,
I love it. It's super. It's my, like, for me, it was like my it's my second place pick for best of the year.
Oh, okay. Then we have a different second. It had a bit of a CW does horror vibe to it.
It does, but it also had Dan Stevens.
It does. I really, as we previously established, I enjoy Dan Stevens. I feel like the guys that made this Radio Silence, I think this is probably their most successful. And it's tongue in cheek in a way that's fun.
It's this
gory
year's
in a way
Renfield.
That's fun. Yeah, exactly.
It's big, it's loud, it's stupid, and it's gory.
It's not as fun as Renfield. I really enjoyed that movie, but it is. It's really gory. It's got a lot of big action set pieces that are pretty fun. I thought the acting is good. Dan Stevens is great. Melissa Barrera's pretty good in it.
Also, I feel like this is the third movie I saw this year with Catherine Newton in it.
It feels like there's just people making the rounds now.
Right.
There's a great Buck Owens song in it.
I love the Danzig song.
There's a great Danzig song in it. It's another one of those ones though that like first 3/4 of the movie really good. Last quarter you're like, oh come on.
I know
really
it kind of putters
in.
out. I do love just how fucking ridiculous it gets in the end, but also a bit presumptuous in setting up a sequel.
Oh hell yeah! And like, I don't like children in movies. I don't like children in general. But
I think
like
she's cool
movies.
as hell, man. But also that girl, she's not as young as she is presented. I think she's like late teens, actually.
Oh, so we've got an orphan situation here.
bit of that, yeah.
Yeah, I really liked it. I thought it was fun. I like that we are getting back to people having fun with horror again.
Yeah.
Because the last couple of years have been so fucking heavy with these like stupid A24 movies where it's like, it's elevated, it's cerebral. Fuck you.
Just give me a movie where a bunch of people kill a bunch of vampires, maybe somebody explodes and gets on everybody else. Like, just make something fucking dumb and loud for me.
Because look, anytime someone goes into it being like, I'm going to make a really highbrow horror movie. Like, no, you're not. Get your head out of your ass. You're going to make something, because you're not as smart as you think you are. You're going to make something that's kind of lame and everyone's going to think it was great.
Yeah, right.
Instead, go into it being like, I'm going to make some real dumb shit. It's going to be extremely violent and it's going to be hilarious. And everyone's going to have a ton of fun. Because I guarantee we would put that shit in the top every single time. Whereas like all these like other dumb movies were like, oh, come on, no more of this trauma and generational trauma. Like we can all go watch Ozark if that's what you want.
Yeah. Good.
Put a vampire in Ozark.
give me vampires and cartels. Give me vampires versus cartels.
Okay. That I believe is From Dusk Till Dawn.
Yes, it is.
I would watch From Dusk Till Dawn instead of A24.
Hey, what'd you think of Cuckoo?
That's my second favorite.
No shit.
Yeah.
I liked that one a lot as well. Also, God damn it, let's hear it for Dan Stevens.
There he is. And he's great in this too.
I think he's definitely one of the movie's highest points. We need more fucking monster movies out there. Just, this has a great creature idea. It is very original. It is extremely Lovecraftian in the sense that there's this like cult dedicated to the preservation and like study of these monsters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if anyone hasn't seen it, it's like a little bit of a simple setup. Like a girl, I think her mother dies. Their parents are divorced. Her mother dies. She has to go live with her father and his new wife and their daughter in
Germany.
Germany. For reasons that do matter. Unlike Baghead, we're not just setting it in Germany for no reason.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a hard one to explain, and it's probably better that I don't get into it.
The less you know about this one, I think the better. Because like again, when I got around to this one, I had only really just seen the poster.
Mhm.
And that was the only thing I knew about it, was just that picture of the girl with her fucking mouth gagged.
Yeah.
And so when it turns out that it's a monster movie, I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, because I didn't see monster movie coming.
No.
I
Comes out of left field. Fucking fantastic.
It does take itself a little too seriously sometimes.
Yeah,
for
there's
what
that,
it's doing.
that whole like the teen angst angle got tiring so fucking fast.
Because she's not quite a teen. She's like
she's a
20.
little too old to be acting that way.
Yeah, I think it really should have leaned more into the goofiness and sort of the campiness, and less of like the subtle winking at the audience, like, yeah, you get it? We're having fun here. Like, I think the acting is good, and it does a lot of heavy lifting in places where the story starts to sag a little bit.
Yeah, the fact that sound plays such a large part of it, like there are moments where they're like, okay, we gotta deafen the characters, and they kind of deafen the audience as well.
Yeah. It reminded me a lot of like the 70s era, like AIP mad scientist movies. Like it had big Dr. Moreau energy.
Right.
BDM, if you will.
Yeah, this is a wicked European movie too.
Mm-hmm.
It feels so Euro.
Yeah. In the end, does it live up to its true potential? It feels like it has a weird resolution that feels a little pedestrian. It could have had a bigger ending. It has a lot of weird plot holes that don't really get, like, there's a girl who doesn't speak, but she's not deaf, but they still speak to her in sign language, even though she can hear them and speak, or not speak, but like, so why? Why are you?
I don't want to. Well, that's a big spoiler right there. We can't explain her too much.
But like, yeah, there's like little dumb shit. But like in general, I thought it was really fun. I think the acting's good. It's pretty well written. It could have just been a little bit more like bigger, go bigger. You know, you're doing something that's really silly and campy. Lean into that instead.
Yeah.
That's what I would have been into. But I really liked it. I thought it was great.
It was great, man. Loved it. Yeah. What else you got?
That was mine.
That's all of them?
No, I got more. Those are only.
So did you see Exuma?
Nope.
Okay. So I just watched this one. Big hype movie out of South Korea, actually delivers on that promise.
I lingered on it a bunch of times. Like, as I was like, gotta watch more 2024 movies. I kept going by that one.
You know, the thing that kept me away from it for as long as it did was the fact that it's over 2 hours long. Like, I've got an aversion. I see.
That's another. I can't do that anymore.
Like, I don't feel like I have time. And most movies that are that long do not fucking deserve to be that long. They're bloated. There's way too much stuffed into it. They just don't need to be over 2 hours long.
You can't justify that length. Then don't do it.
No, the thing is like, that's actually kind of common in Korea. And it's just that a lot of Korean movies have a different sort of way of rolling out the story.
It's the same reason why I can't sit through the wailing. Like, I just.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, this one rolls out in chapters. And because of that, and because each chapter is pretty snappy, it moves along at a pretty good click. Like, it definitely does not feel like a long movie, even though it objectively is. It's got a great premise, which is about it sort of implies that like magic is real and that there are people out there who do it commercially.
Okay.
And so what it is there's this guy, you know, he's a rich dude who is like his child, his baby is like is having health problems, and they're like, I think it's like a curse, a family curse. So they bring in these people who like
usually is,
who are like, oh yeah, you're being cursed. And so they go through, they conduct these rituals to sort of lift the curse essentially. And it just sort of like opens up this like bag that reveals an even deeper curse about like fucking feng shui and geomancy and shit. And like there's this
This feels like it needed a 10 episode series.
It's fucking nuts. It's there's so much crammed into this. There's like an evil fucking samurai who turns into like a huge fireball and like flies around and shit. It's really fucking good.
Definitely sounds Asian.
Super fucking cool villain. You never really get a very good look at him. There's also a lot of ghosts that you only ever see in reflections. They're also incredibly cool.
So they're also Jaws in it.
The less you see. No, this was a real surprise to me because I was like, I don't know if I've got like, I think it's like 140 minutes, 145 minutes.
I can't.
Which is just like so fucking long. Like I don't have that kind of time. But as it turns out, like if you've got like 2.5 hours to burn on a movie, man, like this is the one to watch.
Unless you're a Swedish art film, I don't think I can do that with you anymore.
Yeah. But that's the thing. The key to this is that it does not feel long. That's the thing. Is there is an economy of storytelling to this. It's very cool. There's a lot of menace. It's very spooky. The whole thing is just it all works together very well. I'm very enthusiastic about this one. I'm really singing its praises.
I've got a backlog of like Korean, Chinese, and Japanese movies right now because I'm like, every time I sit down, I'm like, I just need something in English right now. I know it sounds lazy, but I'm like, it has been a busy, rough month. Like I just can't right now. So maybe I'll pick it up next month. After the inauguration when things settle down.
America's great again.
Uh-huh.
All right, what do you got?
I'm going to hit you with A Quiet Place Day 1.
No shit. I avoided this one just because I didn't like the other, like A Quiet Place.
So I was a little reluctant. Michael really liked the first two. I like the first two as well. I think they're okay. So we watched this one. It definitely feels more like a drama than a horror movie, at least compared to the other ones. But it still has giant alien monsters eating people, and it was pitched to a horror audience. So here we are.
Yeah.
It is, I guess. So you saw the other two.
Yeah.
So the second one has a little bit of A Quiet Place Day 1 built into it.
Okay.
Like here's what happens when the things. So this is really like more of that. It's set in New York. It has Lupita Nyong'o in it. I will watch her in fucking anything.
I could watch her fucking baking cookies and be entertained. And
she's super good in this. Like this is a little bit of a different role. Like I feel like she's such a versatile actor. I hated that Little Monsters movie, but she's great in that too. Like she's great in this. She plays kind of like she has cancer. She's dying. She's like in hospice kind of already, and they go on like everyone in the home who can goes on like a field trip to see like a puppet show or something weird in New York when the aliens kind of strike, and they take it from there. She has a cat with her the whole time. She's sort of a great companion. She's just really fucking good in it. Most of the main characters in it are pretty good.
That's cool.
Alex Wolff, the kid that was in Hereditary.
Okay.
Is that him?
Isn't it Eddie from Stranger Things?
Is he? Oh yes, he is also in. He's the other guy, the other lead.
Yeah.
He's pretty good in it as well. But she is fantastic in this. It gives you it just sort of gives you more of that. Like it's exactly what you'd expect. It's aliens. It's in the city, so it kind of is a different slant from the previous two, or in rural environments or whatever. This is one where jawsing it is a good idea.
Yeah.
And they don't quite do that so much in this one. They're like, oh, we've got the fucking money and the technology. We're giving you aliens.
Okay.
And they do to maybe not quite the effect they're going for. I guess when the movie came out, like it was super successful, but it came out, there were all those fucking heat waves over the summer.
Yeah.
And so people were just going to the movies to get out of the house in a place that's air conditioned. So it's like, I don't know if it was a grand slam, but the box office seems to think it was. Otherwise, it is what it is. I enjoyed it though. It's entertaining. She's such a good actor that like you're just captivated by her. It feels dramatic, doesn't feel super horror-y, but I liked it.
Yeah.
It was
That's
pretty
cool.
funny.
That's
it's
cool.
another one of those ones that's like it's kind of on the line.
I was surprised that to hear you drop that one.
But I liked it. I like the other two. They're good.
All right. All right.
A creature feature. Love a creature.
More, like I said, more fucking monsters.
Mm-hmm. More monsters, less trauma.
Yeah. We're nearing the end for me.
Yep.
I got two more. So to the surprise of no one, The Substance is one that I loved tremendously this year.
That was a just okay for me.
No shit.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe
this
it's
is the
just,
hypiest of hypes.
this was, oh my God, the fucking hype. The thing is I feel like it actually delivered on its promise.
I recognize that I am one of the few people that did not think this was very good.
I think that this is the weirdest fucking project for Demi Moore to pick as her fucking comeback.
I thought she was in it. I thought she was great.
And she still fucking wins in the end. Like what a weird pick. And it fucking worked. And I really felt for her in it. I don't know. I get it. Like there's that whole like moment. It's sort of towards the middle where she's trying to get ready to go out for a date with that just like regular guy. And like you can see that this is going to work for her. And then she just fucking sabotages it for herself.
Mm-hmm.
That like, I fucking felt the anguish in that whole moment. Like it's that. And also the fucking story is crazy. And the special effects are nuts.
Okay. That
and the
I
ending
do love.
is crazy as hell.
So I didn't love the movie overall. There were things I liked about it. I thought Demi Moore is particularly good in it. I thought the direction was really good. I thought the editing was really good too. It was well paced. The gore is satisfying in like a really like screaming Mad George kind of way.
It's like Society.
Yeah, it's really gloopy and gloppy.
It's like peak Cronenberg era, like rubbery gore shit.
Yep. My problem is that it gets touted as this big feminist movie. And look, this is not a new theme in movies. This is literally, they've been making this fucking movie for decades.
It's the picture of Dorian Gray. That's what it is. Yeah.
It's Jekyll and Hyde. It's picture of Dorian Gray. It's like very basic shit. Even when you apply it and like, or come at it through this lens, this feminist lens, it's like, yeah, of course that like we live in a youth obsessed culture. We live in a culture that is constantly looking for quick fixes and that is susceptible to addiction. And that's really kind of all you're saying. And you're saying it a cool way. It looks cool, but like, I don't think there's anything profound about this.
I was not charmed by that at all. I was not captivated by the sort of subtext. I think that just as a strange movie, it's extremely satisfying. There's great performances, there's great direction, there's great special effects. Like it just, as a movie, it fucking worked. It's a very surprising piece from like an actress that I would consider respectable.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't think it's as big a risk for her now as it would have been 10 years ago. 15 years ago.
Sure. But man,
I think one of my bigger issues, and I don't know why this is like just getting stuck in my craw right now, but it is for some reason, is that, she pulled this movie from, what's the film festival she pulled it from?
Sickos?
I can't. It was some recent film festival. She pulls the movie because the founders or directors or something made a bunch of like really misogynistic comments, and she's like, "This is not a movie. I don't want this to be shown here. I don't like what you're reflecting." And the thing is, I get it. I think that's totally respectable, totally admirable. However, I do think it's a little bit strange to pull your movie because of misogyny and still cast a vocal and enthusiastic Trump supporter as one of the leads.
Oh God, yeah, the Dennis Quaid inclusion is like, so weird.
We're being a little loosey-goosey here with our moral outrage.
He literally just made a movie where he plays Ronald Reagan, and it's about how fucking awesome Ronald Reagan was.
Yeah, he's also a piece of shit, and like so I think it's a little bit like, all right, you can't be making like a lot of grandstanding here for someone who just cast Dennis Quaid
Yeah, did I say
in their
Randy Quaid?
movie. Either way,
Either way,
I mean,
they're both
one's a
loaded.
little less crazy than the other.
Yeah.
I just wasn't as enamored. I saw what she's doing. I liked things about it. I will like I think she's an interesting director. I'm glad she's having the success. I will watch whatever she makes next. I just wasn't as blown away by it.
All right.
Didn't feel that new to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought the emphasis on gore was cool. Like it's cool to see a woman leaning into that and being like, I want to go again, full like screaming Mad George gore.
Yeah, for sure.
I like that. I'm into that.
All the way. All the way. Love it. Give me more of that. Ooh, is this it? Are we
not yet. I got one more for you.
Okay.
I watched Strange Darling.
I don't know this one.
So JT Molnar, who is not a director I'm familiar with.
Rings a bell.
So it's kind of hard to explain. It's another one that I don't want to give too much away if people want to watch it. I liked it. Didn't love it. Liked it though. It had a lot of hype when it came out. Cinematography by Giovanni Ribisi.
What?
Yeah. And he's good. He's a good cinematographer.
All right.
The dude has got an eye. Really well shot. Decent acting. Kyle Gallner plays like his character is, I believe, referred to in the credits as the demon.
Okay.
And the Willa Fitzgerald, I think is her name. She's the lady. These are basically your main characters. These are your characters.
All right.
Throughout the movie. The Ed Begley Jr. and Barbara Hershey are also, they play sort of minor roles in it.
What?
They're the best part of the movie. They're like old hippie preppers.
Okay.
They're pretty great. I was sort of on the fence about this. It's entertaining. It has a lot of promise. It's one of those ones, every time a filmmaker is like, I'm going to use nonlinear narrative, I'm always like, let me stop you right there. I don't think you have the skills to do that because that is a very, very hard thing to pull off. And I'm going to tell you, they don't pull it off very well.
All right.
It's told in chapters. It's told out of sequence. And even from the beginning, I'm like, I know where this shit is going. And I don't know. It's real violent. There's a lot of things they don't deliver on. I'm being vague, and it's hard to explain my feelings about it without being a little bit more explicit.
Yeah, as we're talking about movies that came out this year, like I don't want to be as spoilery as we usually are because we're usually talking about movies that are like 50 years old.
I mean, there's they kind of, you're sort of left to wonder, like, are the themes in the movie metaphorical or are they literal? And the big reveal at the end is, there's a twist.
Oh, good. I love a twist.
The big reveal at the end is like weirdly seems to be like, it's only a twist if your worldview is built around like really traditional gender roles. Like it's a little bit anachronistic in that way where I'm like, yeah, I kind of figured that out a long time ago.
Okay.
It's not really a big twist anymore.
All right. I'll check this one out.
It's worth seeing. It's, it's slick. It's fast. It's violent. It feels more thrillery than horror, but it definitely has like a horror heart. And again, Barbara Hershey, Ed Begley Jr. as weird hippies, really great. It's really it's like the four of them, and that's it.
Damn. Tight little cast.
I thought it was pretty good. Music's pretty good. Like it was just one of those ones where I'm like, did I love it? Yeah, not really, but I'm glad I saw it. It was interesting.
That's good.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much. I think that takes us. That takes us there. That gets us there. Home.
Before we do this, I do want to bust out one that's an honorable mention, mostly just because it's not a horror movie. This is more of a 99-cent rental type. Hundreds of Beavers is fucking incredible.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've heard things.
Yeah. If you can, I believe the Vinegar Syndrome release sold out in like fucking 20 minutes. Yeah, but find a way. This movie is unreal. It is very, very hard to explain. It's like a cartoon, but it has a live cast. It's so hard to explain. It's almost like a silent movie.
How many beavers?
Hundreds of them.
Wow, hundreds of people.
hundreds of beavers.
Okay.
Yeah. But okay, let's bust it out.
All right.
Here it is. Number one, the top movie, our favorite of the year. I believe both of us are put this at the top of the year.
Yep.
Yeah. I saw the TV Glow was my top
100%.
pick. And I knew this from the moment I first saw it, that this was going to be my top pick.
I was captivated by this movie in ways that I find very hard to explain and to articulate.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Please see our bonus episode.
I was going to say, if you are not a Patreon subscriber and you would like to hear what we have to say about I Saw the TV Glow in depth, given our usual sort of depth of analysis, and hear us both sort of tiptoe around, walk on eggshells around its thematic content, subscribe to our Patreon today. On January 1st, that episode's going to come out, and we are going to sound like fucking morons talking about it. But this movie made me feel things in a way that movies just don't anymore.
Yeah, deeply. I think it was a deeply affecting story, and you know, it is very clearly about gender. It's very clearly about transitioning and dealing with the feelings around gender and being gendered wrongly. But I think even if you were not familiar with those feelings or feelings about sort of sexuality, it is still a deeply affecting movie because it's very emotional. It's a very human story.
It manages to articulate a really alien concept to most people.
Yep.
It's all done through metaphor. In a way that's really cool. If this one taught me anything, it's that I need to stop being a fucking baby about A24 movies. This is the second year.
Okay, easy.
This is the second year in a row my favorite movie was a fucking A24 movie. And I'm always like, wow, trauma, Ari Aster, A24.
Don't let go. Hold on to that anger.
Yeah.
The hate flow through you.
God. It's unbelievable. But this movie is fucking heavy and it is suffocating and just, I don't want to watch it again. But I'm very, very glad that I did. Like, it gave me so much to fucking think about. Aesthetically, I mean, far from perfect. It's really, really wobbly. It's extremely self-indulgent in parts.
Oh, hugely.
But it has a visual language that rules. It has a killer soundtrack.
Yeah, the soundtrack is really, I think one of the bigger takeaways is, you know, it is, and I don't want to minimize the story because I do think the story is really incredible. The soundtrack is fucking amazing.
Yeah.
It's like kind of willowy girl rock that I'm usually a little eye rolly about, but like the second I heard this, I was like, I got to order this fucking soundtrack. And I did.
Yeah. It's top to bottom. It's just so fucking good. Like I have not, like, it is a movie. Like I think I'm just like, I'm jaded. I'm fucking old. And like, I don't feel the way that movies like used to. This is one that hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, and even when we went to rewatch it for the upcoming episode, like I still felt like I had to sort of dig myself out from under it. Like when I was done, like it is a movie that sticks with you.
I think that one of the reasons it's really successful, because you're right, it's not a home run. The pacing is uneven. It's got a lot of weird holes. There are things that don't really get explained or that don't get explained very well. But I think that it's brave in a way, and I don't like to use that term because it sounds silly.
I know, it's like when I try to describe something as elegant, and it's like, oh, yeah. you better fucking mean it when you say elegant or brave.
It's brave in a way that it is approaching a subject that people are real kind of hinky about sometimes, or that at the very least that they're afraid to talk about. And it talks about it in a way that is it's very normalizing. It's very sort of universalizing in certain ways. And it is very exclusive in other ways. There are just things that I, as a sort of cisgendered man, will never really understand. But I, as a gay man, do sort of understand the othering of that. And
yeah, that's the thing is, I think that for a cisgendered person, like this is the sort of thing that like, if you have no experience with gender dysphoria, this is a movie that's going to sort of inch you closer to an understanding of what that actually is.
Mm-hmm. It's very honest, and it's honest in a very, like, in its humanity, that's just like, this is what it's like. It's not all the dumb shit you hear on Fox News or that you hear in the New York Times. Like, it's a story that is like, this is a thing about people. It's not about politics. It's about like the heartbreak of not belonging and you will never belong. And it's sort of like that. And like, even now that I'm talking about it, I'm like, I don't really know how to articulate this. It's just a very moving story. And, you know, I think all things considered, it really suggests there's a lot of interesting things to come from Jay Schoenbrun. I think that they're going to put out more movies, hopefully. And I think they're just going to get better at it and better at sort of refining the stories and sort of honing their skills to present movies that I hope are as moving as this and as interesting and compelling.
Yeah. Fucking hell. What a movie, man.
Yep.
It just an absolute, like, I don't want to sound like a fucking like stuffy movie reviewer or anything like that, but a fucking triumph. It's such a goddamn a great movie.
And just to think like, we're saying that about something that at times is a little like, okay, pick it up here, move along. Like, even when like we can say, look, it's not perfect. It is, you can like, I know a lot of people that watched it and were like, I don't like this. I don't like that. It's slow. It's boring. I don't get it. There were like, I think the majority of people that I watched it with, 2 people that hated it.
Damn.
And I was the one that was like, no, let's watch it again. And they were like, no. I don't want to.
No, get with me. I have to take notes now.
And that's why I was just like, we need to do a whole episode. We need to do a whole Patreon spinoff so I can talk about this movie. It's kind of like where I was like, I really want to talk about
kind of like how we ended up with a whole second podcast.
Yeah,
like listen, I really want to talk about Bronx Warriors.
Yeah. So I found it very moving. It's I think it portends good things. So
Yep. So Jesus H. Christ, man. This is our longest episode. If you're still with us, God bless you. But 2024, it was a pretty okay year.
Yeah. I mean, I thought we had some good episodes.
We had some fucking great episodes. We grew a lot. We gained a ton of new listeners. We hear from you guys all the time. I love fucking talking to you guys. I love hearing your messages. Like some of the messages that have been sent to me through just like DMs on Instagram and stuff have been extremely validating. Like more than just people being like, hey, I really like it. Like, being told like, this is a podcast that really fucking touches me in a way, like emotionally, that is very surprising to me. Cause I'm actually kind of surprised that anybody wants to listen to me talk at all.
Seriously. Yeah. I'm obviously a very guarded person and a cynical person. And I am a bit of a character, but I will say, yes, I think it is, it means a lot to hear that people really like it, that they really want to listen to it, and they look forward to listening to it. I do not think much of the things that I do and have done in my life, so it means a lot that people are like, hey, I like the thing you do.
Yeah.
I appreciate it quite a lot.
So thank you so much for another fucking year of 99 Cent Rental. We got that 1 year down. We're coming around to 2 years of Bring Me the Axe. Fucking A. Stick with us because next year is gonna fucking rule. We've got our list already in place. I think we have 1 spot to fill for the rest of the year.
I don't know. I think I already took it. I think I put Return to Salem's Lot in there.
Oh shit. Yeah, this is gonna be crazy. It's gonna be nuts. We've got some we got some new guests booked. We've got some old friends coming back. It's gonna be a great year. So yeah. Stay with us. I believe we're going to be back in a week with 99 Cent Rental doing fucking Mommy Dearest, which is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm going to be shouting a lot, just FYI.
And then what are we doing? What's our first Bring the Axe for the next year?
Bring the Axe in 2 weeks. We are coming back with one of my favorite haunted house movies, The Changeling.
Oh shit. Yes. Okay. Yeah. All right. So, hey, thanks for another year. We'll be back next week with Mommy Dearest. No wire hangers ever.